Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in on a Monday evening to Hoopsville. We're a couple minutes late starting the air. I apologize. A lot going on here this evening as things were rolling along nicely this afternoon until the last few hours. Things have heated up. If you got questions for us or you want to interact with us or whatever you want to do, please feel free to find us on our social medias. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram, on Threads, and on Blue. You can also find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Of course, you can also find us streaming there along with YouTube, along with our partners at Hudl Blue Frame. You can also email us, hoopsville@d3sports.com. That's an easy way to get a hold of us as well. We'll keep an eye on there as much as possible. Quickly, let's talk about our guest tonight because we got to get to some news heading on this evening, as it were. Let's start with, like we said, we want to start with our guests. We'll start, we got 6 of them lined up tonight. It is a jam-packed show talking about great programs throughout Division III. First and foremost, we'll go up and start with WPI. Chris Bartley will join us to talk about the Engineers. Believe it or not, set a record for the most wins, best season ever in New Mac men's basketball history. That's saying a lot considering some of the great teams that came out of it. Remember Springfield? A few years ago, went to the Final Four. WPI seems to be playing their best basketball right now, which is saying quite a bit. Nick Nachay joins us from Franklin and Marshall. Just notice I got a spelling error there I'm going to have to fix. They just went to Gettysburg this past weekend, got a big win to win the regular season crown in the Centennial Conference. They have been on a roll as well since dropping back-to-back games to Gettysburg and Hopkins in mid-January. We'll talk to him about his team, their chances at a conference title, and if they can get into the tournament and what they can do at that point. We'll then head back, we'll head up to New England again. We'll go to Maine. Colby women's basketball coach Chenel Harris-Smith will join us. Believe it or not, they're the number 2 seed in the NESCAC tournament. Got a win over Williams in the opening round. They will be playing down I-95 at Bowdoin. It's kind of down 95. It's not really, but anyway, let Mike ruin the analogy. They are not the team you prototypically see in second place. We'll talk to her about her squad. Then we'll head down to Texas. Another team's had an amazing turnaround season. McMurray women's basketball. Drew Long will join us to talk about the Warhawks and just how good they are this season and the fact that they could upset the apple cart in the ASC. Colorado College better watch out. McMurray's a 2 seed. Then we'll head to the Great Lakes. We'll go to Calvin, and Bill Saul will join us to talk about his team. They are on an 18-game winning streak. We knew they were starting the season, or most of us did, without their All-American from last year, but after stumbling a bit at the start of the season, I don't think anybody saw 18 straight coming. Just got another win over Trine. We'll talk to him, and then we'll stay in the Great Lakes, go to Ohio, and Stacy Ungashik-Lobdell will join us from the Battling Bishops women's basketball team at Ohio Wesleyan, who had the first undefeated conference season in program history. We'll talk to her about that and their expectations moving forward. Quickly, let's pivot. Let's talk about the news that has come out. We do have NPI rankings to take a peek at. We'll look at those in a bit. There's been a little bit of movement, especially on the women's side. But on the we'll start with some breaking news today. First and foremost, we've been following Wentworth men's basketball and what's going on there. The fact that their men's coach has, and most of the staff, if not all, have not been coaching the program for several weeks now. Long and short of it is, still isn't, and still listed on the website. We can't get any information about it. I may send another email, but the emails have gone to upon deaf ears in the past. Don't know what's going on. Again, there's plenty of rumor what's going on at Wentworth. That job will most likely be open this summer, unless for some reason this is a suspension that no one wants to talk about. I don't know. But we will. We just haven't learned anything more about it. But Wentworth Tech continues to be an odd situation. Colby Sawyer news came out today that their men's job will be open. Apparently, head coach there texted his team today to indicate that he would not be back. Unsure why you wouldn't say that to the team in a meeting with them, but a lot of things can happen administratively, but nonetheless, he's not there. Then Other news broke out of New England that Jeff Brown at Middlebury has announced his retirement. We'll have more on that in the future. I haven't had enough time to digest it, but Jeff Brown has been a stalwart at Middlebury. He's been an incredible coach. They started off having a wonderful season. The second half, not so wonderful. I hope that didn't contribute to his decision. But he's been the dean of that conference for a long time. He has been a winner at Middlebury. They have certainly got a lot to be proud of there, but it's going to be weird with Jeff Brown not patrolling the sideline. And while that news was coming out, I was working on news today about another big decision. At Mary Hardin-Baylor, I have multiple sources telling me that Cliff Carroll will not be back as men's basketball coach after this season. He is 98-33 currently with the program. They have at least one game left in the regular season. They got the conference tournament coming up. Don't know what to make of it. I don't have any information as to the whys. You win 98 wins and games in 5 seasons, you would think things are okay. I just know he's out. I just know he'll coach to the end of the season. That's all I know. I don't have any other information from my sources, who I think a lot of them are as baffled as anybody else is at that move. There has been talk that Mary Hardin-Baylor, along with others, I think was it Howard Payne or Howard Sidon? I was confused. Could be going to Division II. I'm also hearing that's not necessarily going to be happening. It keeps coming up every 3 months or so that the Division II rumor repercolates. I'm not hearing it's going to happen, but maybe it is. I think if they were going D2 and they wanted to open up the job, maybe that's an idea, but I can't get anywhere on that. I did hear from one source who kind of gave me a baffling answer. Too many issues, whether they're large or small, explicable or inexplicable, unavoidable or self-inflicted, not much tolerance. Okay. Sure. We know Mary Hardin-Baylor is, one of those Baptist group schools that has, strict rules in place about behavior and decorum and what they expect from their staff. Everybody, faculty, staff, it doesn't matter who you are, students. But let's be honest, this is the same program that had a football coach get into a lot of hot water with the NCAA in Division III over use of a vehicle and trying to win games. Getting students, benefits through that vehicle and otherwise that maybe didn't make their report, and they were fine with him. He coached another year or two, I think, after that report before retiring, and maybe the retirement was him forced out. But if they have these no tolerance, I would have thought he would have been fired per the investigation. I don't know. I'm as confused as anybody else is. Hopefully we'll learn more in the coming days, weeks, months, whatever it is, as to what happened there. And that's just the carousel spinning up. The carousel is going to start spinning hard. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of coaching changes, I think, in Division III for whatever reason. Remember, we have schools closing. Northland has closed. They announced that, I think it was on Friday of last week. About almost a year ago, I was reporting that Northland was in trouble, and I had been given pretty much all indications they were closing. There was a meeting to state that they were closing coming, and then they changed their minds at the last minute, raised money, though honestly not enough, but announced that things were great because they raised some money. They didn't even hit their goal. And then I heard that athletics was going to try and add some programs to try and bring in more student athletes, which is never a great solution. Maybe long-term. Keystone is an example. They added football to try and save that school, and it's not going to work. Keystone's not official, but it's happening. They're closing. Their appeal's coming up next month, and then they'll be done. That appeal's not going to be reversed. So there's going to be coaching changes. There's going to be coach openings. There's going to be probably more retirements, and certainly school closures that are going to kind of make things a little bit rocky this offseason. But coaching carousel is already a spinning here on a Monday evening, to say the least. Sorry, I was trying to read. I think anyway, not sure. I was seeing a note. I didn't know if there was something I was missing, but I'm not. Apologies. So there you go. Lots going on. A little hard to understand it all. Not really sure where everything goes from here. With that job, I feel bad for Cliff Carroll, but I really also don't know what's going on, to be blunt. And we still have a lot of news because new NPI numbers are out. We'll take a quick peek at them here now, but keep in mind these numbers are going to be out every day and they're going to change on a daily basis. But on the men's side of things, Wesleyan continues to be number 1. NYU continues to be number 2. Platteville is 3. Randolph-Macon is 4. And Trinity is 5. Emory slid to 6 with La Crosse and Hampton-Sydney at 7 and 8. So Randolph-Macon now up into the top 4. Trinity at 5. Remember, NYU and Randolph-Macon have their women's programs in play for possible hosting as well. Not guaranteed, but possible. But so that's an interesting development there on the men's side. But NYU and Wesleyan certainly seem pretty much locked in those 2 top spots. 2 points clear of Platteville is NYU. And Wesleyan's a point and a third clear of NYU. Going over to the women's side, NYU is number 1, as we mentioned. They're going to be hosting the opening weekend. Bowdoin is number 2. That gap is closed a little bit. I'll be curious if Bowdoin can overtake NYU, considering they'll play 2 games this week, and NYU will play 1. Scranton is 3rd. Illinois Wesleyan 4th. That remains the same. Baldwin-Wallace is 5th. Now Gustavus 6th. Whitman moves up to 7th, and Gettysburg enters the top 8 as Oshkosh fell out of the top 8. So that's your new your new NPI numbers, and we'll take more peek at them maybe later in the show as well as we talk about the ramifications. And with that, we have so much to get to tonight. I'm going to get to a break because we got to get moving with our guests. Coming up next, we're going to go up to Massachusetts and talk with Worcester, WPI, Worcester Polytech, about their program and a heck of a season in the NESCAC. You listen to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. So much more ahead. Hope you stay with us.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education,
and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all. It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
If I lose, I'll respond with respect.
If I win, I'll back it up with humility.
If I fail, I'll rise up with honor. It's tough for us to put it all on the line.
Don't undo my hard work with poor sportsmanship.
Respect. It's the name of the game.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. I get this almost every show. Yes, we have a lip sync issue. We don't know why on the video there's a lip sync issue. It is fine on our end. It's fine on our recordings. We've even adjusted for maybe a slight issue. We've reinstalled the software. We've done everything. For whatever reason, there's a sync issue. We don't know how it's happening. We appreciate it if you maybe just enjoy the show, as it were, in meaning enjoy the lip sync show. I'm your host, Dave McHugh. Welcome in. Hope you're enjoying it. All the reasons, if you're watching us live on the video, bar at the bottom has all the ways you can interact with us. Please do so. We'd love to hear from you. If you got questions, don't hesitate to fire them our way. We'll do our best to answer them. Heading up to New England, one of the best teams in the country right now is the Engineers of WPI. Chris Bartley's squad is humming along. They are now the 14th ranked team in the latest D3Hoops.com Top 25 that came out today. And it seems like nothing can go wrong. 23-2 on the season, 15-1 in NEWMAC play. That is the best NEWMAC record ever in men's basketball action. Their two losses came on back-to-back games, so they were 3 weeks apart. On January 7th against Babson, and then the 30th of December. I think December 7th is what I meant to say against Babson. December 30th against Suffolk in a games played down in Hartford. Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline to talk about his Engineers is the aforementioned Chris Bartley. Coach, good to have you. I promise I won't ask you about burgers.
Bartley's Burgers, famous. No, great to be here, Dave. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you coming on. I said to you off air, I've said this to a number of people. It feels like your team is playing better at this point in the season than I remember in years past or at any point. This conference can beat you up. It can chew you up by the end of a year. The fact that you finished 15-1 and have been clicking along since the turn of the new year, it has got to be impressive even from your perspective.
Yeah, it's been a good group. We've won some close games. We've been fortunate, and, I think to have a great season when you're 23-2, you're going to have a couple breaks along the way for sure. But, I think we've made a lot of our breaks. I got a really good group of seniors led by Aiden Callahan, who's been a 4-year starting point guard for us. He's one of those 15 points, 5 assist guys, which, are rare. I think there's only probably a dozen of them in Division III. And then, a couple other seniors that have waited their turn, played behind some really good players. We graduated two first-team all-conference guys last year, and John Adams, who went on to the Citadel, and Donovan Sevilla, who went to a Division II school in California for his 5th year. And Timmy Reedy has, I think he's leading the NEWMAC in three-point shooting or close to it. And Brett Morelli's been really an anchor for us inside. So, those three seniors have, I think, surprised a lot of people. After Callahan, I don't think many people really knew what to expect from us. And I was one of those people. So, I'm really impressed by these guys, quote unquote, stepping up the way they have.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, the guy at Citadel, he's not too bad. He's having a pretty good year for them. It proved that he was a pretty darn good basketball player at this level. I think it's the 15-1 mark that really, stands out to me. Listen, we saw a Springfield team that made the Final Four. We knew how good they were. They had one of those prototypical talents that you die as a coach to have. They didn't do what you did in this conference. Babson won a national title, didn't do what you did in this conference to an extent. They certainly dominated, don't get me wrong. But what does that mean for you? You've been around this conference for so long. You've seen how teams evolve. You've seen how teams kind of matriculate through a season. You're 15-1. What does that mean that your program was able to pull that off?
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, I think we've been consistent for a long time here in our program. I think, alluding to the new MAC record, I think it's just a matter of we won 15 games and Salve Regina entered our league 2 years ago. So I think when Babson won the national championship.
We're fudging it a little, Chris.
Yeah, no. So I just want to make sure. I think Babson went 14-0 one year, but we've had a ton of 1-loss years, 2-loss years, and it's something that we're really proud about. But with this team, I think we're playing a little bit different. We've always played great defense, I think, but now with the graduation of, Adams, and then we had the kid Lowther, who was like a real bull inside, and then prior to that, Garrett Stevenson, who was a terrific post player. We played a little bit slower than we had in the, years previous, but now we're opened up a lot more. We're playing a lot faster, shooting the ball from deep more, and, having a little bit more balance that way. So it's been good.
I was leaning in on what Rusty Egan had written because I respect Rusty and I wanted to have some fun with it. Yes, 15 wins is unheard of in the new MAC because of Salve Regina, to your point, and I was alluding to it earlier. Babson did go 14-0, their national championship year in 16-17, and Springfield the next year went 12-2 in that year. But still, 15-1, Chris. That's 16 games, and you're not dropping more than that one. What happened in those two games? Back, interesting enough, Babson on the 7th of January, and then 3 weeks later, after thinking about it, Suffolk in that game in Hartford.
Yeah, I think we had one of our best players as a kid, a junior, J.R. Newman, who was out for our first 10 games, and he's, I think, one of the premier defensive players in our conference. He's been a double-digit scorer for us as well, and really a kid who's come on and really developed over the years. So, I think we had a really big win at Tufts. I think that was really a win that gave our team a lot of confidence when we went to Tufts and beat them. I think we came back from that and we played Babson in a conference game, and they took it to us. And Babson was picked to win our league. So I think we were picked to, third in the preseason poll. So, it was no surprise. Babson's got a ton of talent. Clark has a ton of talent, and some of the younger programs in our league, like Springfield's got a ton of talent, young talent, and Emerson. What Billy Curley does with his group year in and year out, and they got a 7-footer from Germany. So, there's a lot of opportunities to stub your toe in our conference for sure. But, I think we talked about just getting back to basics and being, the gritty kind of no-nonsense team that we are. And, that's what I really love about this group. It's like, they just come to work every day. We don't have any drama at all. And there's really a low ego group, which I think all of us as coaches really appreciate that. And, sometimes things the magic kind of comes together. And I think this team, has kind of come together at the right time and in the right way.
Well, you hinted at it again. Babson was picked to win this conference. There's certainly no run over. Stephen knows how to get the best out of his guys. But you went through this conference with a team that's somewhat young with one loss in conference, and it does feel like it starts with your defense. Field goal percentage is fourth best in the nation at 37.3%. Scoring defense is seventh best in the nation. You're only averaging 60 points a game allowed. Scoring margin is 18th in the nation at 13.5 points a game. 3-point defense is the best in the nation, 24.4%. a lot of people say defense wins championships. You've been around a long time. Has the defense gotten any better than this?
Yeah, I don't know. I think, for us, it's like we're trying to win the math a little bit. And because we're a little smaller and, we have more shooters now, we really, put an emphasis on hopefully getting enough threes off and, trying to limit the amount of threes that the other team can get off. So, I think the math has worked well for us, but, the thing that I told our guys early, I think we were one of those teams early on where if we weren't shooting the ball well, it sort of impacted our defense. We didn't defend as well. Once we got past that, and we've been winning games, some of these conference, how it is when you get to January and February in your conference, it's like a slugfest. And we've won in some games where we're shooting 37% from the floor. So it hasn't been like we've been a juggernaut on offense every night, but our defense has been there for us every single day.
Well, that's the thing. Defense travels too, right? And so if you're having a bad night, lean on the defense. Things will go well no matter what gym you're in. You were talking about some of the guys, and they rank pretty well as well. Aiden Callahan is in the top 20 or top 30 in assists per game at 5.1. Maybe Rusty's fudging it a little bit. We'll give it to him. He's also top 40 in assist to turnover ratio, 2.3 assists to 1 turnover. He is certainly good in free throw percentage. And then Tim Reedy, he's 17th in 3-point field goals made at 77. He's 19th in 3-pointers a game. He's averaging 3.1 per game. Percentage, he's 24th, 41.2% from deep. And the 3-point attempts, he's 31st at 187. My point being, defense travels, but you got a guy who can handle the ball, a guy who can shoot from really well outside, and that just helps everybody else.
Yeah, so with Aiden, he started on a 27-3 team his freshman year that went to the Elite Eight. We ran into what I call the buzzsaw at Randolph-Macon, but I think
that's literally Buzz Anthony, buzzsaw.
Yeah, so Buzz did that to a lot of people, ended a lot of seasons in his career, but I think starting as a freshman, on that team, just gave Aiden a lot of experience and confidence, and I think it's helped, as he's gradually, grown into more of a scoring role because we need him to score more now. Be more aggressive. I think, he's got that experience in his back pocket, and, he's a great mentor to our other guys because he's like one of those leaders that empowers other people. He doesn't take up all the air in the room, which is kind of cool.
By the way, Sweet 16 game against RPI, the PA announcer at Randolph-Macon could not get off of engineers. Just kept saying engineers all game long. As a PA announcer, I would have avoided that word.
Yeah, we kind of go by goats now. Our mascot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right, mental note. I'm going to keep that in mind then. Hey, everything good for hosting? You're in a good spot. You can get some games at your place. I know we've had years past where state robotics championships or something like that, and I'm not faulting that. My son's in robotics. He's won a few state championships himself. I'm not faulting it for an engineering school, but we've had these years where you guys are uncertain. Are things okay? Can you host? Are we going to be able to see games up there in Worcester?
Yeah, welcome to Worcester. I think we're good to go if they want to.
What do you expect from the conference tournament ahead? Because we talked about it at the beginning. You hinted at it. You don't know your opponent as of yet. You've got the first round bye, I believe.
Yeah.
Again, it's a slug to get through this conference. Clark is 16-9, 12-4 in conference play. Babson 10-6. Emerson and Springfield 7-9. Whoever you get is not gonna be an easy choice, and getting through just to get the AQ is probably going to be one of your toughest things this year.
Yeah, we've been through it enough where, what's happened in the regular season truly has nothing to do with, anything. A couple years, we won the conference, 3 years ago, and the next year we're in the finals, and our kid Lowther blows his shoulder out, 7 minutes into the game. And then last year, Steve's team at Babson, the kid Baxter, came in and dropped 35 on us. And we played like just bananas, and we went home. I think for our team, it's like, we've had three great years. I mean, this senior class is 93 and 14, but we've only been to one NCAA tournament. We stayed at home with 22 and 4 and 21 and 5, winning the conference the last 2 years as well. So we're not taking anything for granted, but obviously the numbers with the NPI, it's a little bit easier to decipher, and things look pretty good. So we just want to put everything we have into this game on Thursday. We're either going to play Emerson or Springfield, and they're just such different teams that we really can't stop preparing until we know who we're playing Tuesday night. So we'll take it, as they say, Dave, one game at a time.
Well, we were bound to get some coach speak out of you.
There you go.
Shift paces today. Well, really the last couple of weeks, there's been some odd coaching news up there. The Wentworth Tech story, which we touched on earlier, just don't know what's going on, but that likely will be a coach opening. Colby Sawyer has an opening, but some of the vets are starting to step aside as well, Chris. Jeff Brown today announcing that he's retiring. My first question is about Jeff, because I know you've probably known Jeff for a number of years up there in New England. The fact that he's decided to hang it up surprise you?
I haven't talked to Jeff in a while, and I will just say this, that I think he's one of the most admired and respected, coaches, in Division III basketball, never mind just New England. I mean, just the way he carries himself, the consistency of the program. He's an absolutely phenomenal basketball coach, great recruiter, just a great, I think, person in our game. So, he'll be definitely missed. But, it's funny, I was just talking to my assistants about this. In our league, this is my 24th year.
Yeah.
Steve's, I think, 30 years in. Larry Anderson's got to be close to 34. I don't know. Something.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Ryan Walmsley's longer. I'm only I've been in it 24 years. I'm only the fourth or fifth tenured guy in this league. So, I think, there's so many of these jobs at the NUMAC and the NESCAC. They're just, they're great institutions. They're great schools. And, I don't think for a lot of people at our level that have good programs, the grass isn't always greener. If you find a good small college place that you can build a good program and sustain success, like a lot of these programs have, I think, it's why a guy like Jeff Brown probably never went to Division I, because he certainly probably had the opportunity.
Sure. I don't think people appreciate this. You talk about 24 years, and Steve at 30, you all got early starts too. You're only a handful of years older than I am, and you're in your 24th year at WPI. To ask you when you're retiring would seem foolish, because in my world, you're not anywhere close to that point of view. So what's it like? It's kind of the Dave Hickson thing. What's it like to be with a program for such a long period of time? But in the grand scheme of things, there's many years still ahead, we would think.
Every year is every year is a new challenge. That's what I look at it. I don't look at it like I've been at a place, for all these years. I just look at it okay, what do we got to do with this team and this group? And, what's the future? What do we got to do to improve? That's the way I look at it. So I think it keeps you, on your toes. It keeps you, in a mindset where you're constantly trying to improve. And, I think that's what it's all about. And regardless of what your career is, you want to continue to try to grow and get better.
Well, I appreciate your time, sir. Your brother decided to retire at a rather young age. Disappointed in that young man, but he's enjoying whatever he wants to do. I enjoy the fact you're still coaching WPI, and I appreciate the time you gave us. As always, though, as we wish you luck in the NUMAC tournament and on into March, we give you the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in tonight?
Yeah, I really want to thank my guys on the team. I mean, from whether they're guys that play a ton or they're guys that, play a smaller role or, maybe don't play at all. It's been a great year for us so far. I mean, they let us, coach them pretty hard and be ourselves, which is great. And I also want to just thank all my assistant coaches, Riley Niclario. David Brown has been with me since he played for me in 2012, graduated. Caleb Downing, Colin McMurray, and our new guy, Joey Nuttall. So they all have done a great job and, make my job a lot easier. So appreciate you guys.
Well said. And yeah, it always takes a village, even if one person gets all the attention.
That's
hey,
right.
Good luck. Take care of yourself. Thanks for the time. Tell Rusty I said hi, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you, Dave.
Chris
Bye-bye.
Bartley joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Again, they're number 1 in the conference with Clark, number 2. And so they wait to find out what happens on Tuesday. Tuesday, it is Coast Guard at Babson and Springfield at Emerson. Babson would go to Clark, or I should say the winner of the Coast Guard Babson game goes to Clark. The winner of the Springfield Emerson game goes to WPI. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll talk to another coach who's got the number 1 seed in their conference in a very similar setup. Franklin and Marshall went to the battlefield on Saturday, came out of the victors over the Bullets of Gettysburg, and they're enjoying the fruits of that opportunity. We'll talk to Nick Nachay coming up. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops. Back with more after this.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that. A lot more.
Sure, the game is important. But as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. And in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's NABC.com or NABC1927 on social media.
Responsibility is being accountable for your words and actions, first and foremost. It also is an obligation to be a positive influence in the communities around you. Being in a D3 program, you're going to have lots of different opportunities. You're not just an athlete, you're also involved in student life. Your academics are extremely important. We give a lot of our student athletes responsibilities right from the start by giving them leadership opportunities, by having them engage in the community, be a positive influence. That's being a responsible person.
There are over 480,000 college athletes. Only 2% would go pro. That means over 470,000 will not get a shoe contract. No autographs. No private jets. No fan clubs. No Hall of Fame inductions. Instead, they will walk away with something much more valuable.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships
just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, then I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
Do it all the time. Never cut off the commercial completely. I'm back. Hoopsville is on the air. I'm your host, Dave McHugh. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you got questions for us, information at the bottom of your screen, but you can always email us whenever you need. We'd love to hear from you. I want to appreciate our next guest for jumping on the air because I apparently gave him the wrong time, but he rallied like a champ. Well, he hopes to be a champ in the Centennial Conference coming up. Got to see Franklin and Marshall at Gettysburg for a huge game on Saturday. Winner was going to take home the regular season title and top seed. F&M had one thing in their pocket that maybe was a bit of an advantage. They knew they were likely going to be missing the first round of games anyway as a 2 seed with a loss. I say likely because you know how tiebreakers can go. But nonetheless, they went up to Gettysburg and led almost start to finish. Certainly controlled much of the game and certainly impressed. But can they do it in the conference tournament now? Because they definitely have a target on their backs. They're not hiding anymore. Nick Nachay joins us on the Hoopsville Hotline to talk about his Diplomat squad and their big win on Saturday. Nick, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it. Good to see you again.
Yeah, long time no see, right?
Yeah.
Appreciate you having us on.
Hey, the season kind of got off to a little bit of a bumpy start. 1-2. Lost to Penn State Harrisburg. Certainly Don Friday always has a good team. Lost to Elizabethtown 86-80 with a win over Albertus Magnus, squashed in the middle there, 88-85. You got a couple more wins. St. Joseph's, Connecticut, though a step back. Then lost 2 out of 3 again. Christopher Newport, Virginia Wesleyan. Nothing to scoff at. They've been in the top 25s. And then another couple of losses back-to-back. Gettysburg and Hopkins mid-January. I feel like at that point you fell off everybody's radar. Because I think everyone saw the 6 losses and went, okay, F&M's competitive. They're good, but we're not going to be talking about them come the end of February. Hello?
Yeah, I mean, one of those things, we wanted to challenge ourselves with the schedule. I think playing the games that we did early on really allowed us to find areas we had to improve. And from day one, we're just trying to make marginal improvement, every day. And with the start of conference play and the first two losses, we actually were a little bit banged up against Hopkins. Josh Parrott didn't play. In the Gettysburg game, it was lingering a little bit with him. But, I mean, everybody's dealing with something, I feel like, in that part of the year. And then early on in the year, we were without Dylan Cormack, who was recovering from an injury. And since we've kind of had this unit together and practicing, I feel like they've played really well. And that's even with a kid. We have a kid, Franklin Jones, who was really doing a great job for us too, that unfortunately hit an injury. So we've kind of had to keep shifting around and develop that bench and find that rotation that works best for us. And fortunately, I guess we found it at the right time to kind of heat up and go on a little run.
Yeah, but that said, at the same time, you seem like you were a little restrictive on your bench on Saturday. You didn't lean in hard on it. You definitely used it. Parra didn't play as much as I expected, and we'll talk about some other guys. Is that the idea you've got the bench, but you also have these guys back now, and so when you need to, you can shorten it and rely on the ones you plan to rely on in the first place?
Yeah, I'm kind of one of those guys. I don't go in with predetermined rotation for games. I kind of let the game feel itself out, and there's certain matchups we feel like we might exploit, and game flow can impact that too. I've got, our starting five's done a great job, and we have guys off the bench that I could point to a game, or even within that game, each one of those guys, I can think of a huge play they made. Sam Davison comes in, takes a big charge. Syed coming off the bench. I had him in on the final defensive possession of the game. He had a great shot contest that forced a miss. And so, and Sebastian Charles, he's been a senior captain for us. He ended up, as you pointed out, really coming in for Josh Parra and playing a lot of minutes. I thought that gave us a great look and some versatility defensively that helped us out. So we've got guys that went called on already, but there's no doubt that starting group that we have some guys that I really don't ever want to take them off the floor. Sometimes we have a rule where guys put a fist up and I'll take them out. Sometimes I almost intentionally choose to ignore that fist, or my assistants that tell me that, hey, Kevin put a fist up, and I'll say, hey, how many timeouts do I got? Because he's not coming out right now. But it's kind of game to game sometimes.
Yeah. Speaking of Kevin Nanaziat, is arguably best player in the conference. I haven't seen the whole conference, but I'm really impressed with what he can do. Sad part, he's a junior for the rest of the conference. Nearly 20 points a game, but it's unassuming at times. Shoots 53% from the floor, 38% from deep, 72% from the free throw line, pulls down 7 rebounds to lead the team, hands out the second most assists, and probably could hand out the most with his eyes closed, gets a bunch of steals, etc. I could go in and out of what I'm impressed with about him, because he's going up against a 6'6" guy for the most part on Saturday, and was dominating like he was 6 foot. Naziat is listed at 6'4". They made some defensive changes that definitely made it more interesting. But my point being is, he's unassuming, and yet he's the biggest part of your team.
Yeah, Kevin, no one deserves this kind of success more than Kevin. He's just been the kid puts in the work. There's some guys, they work, they put in work, or everybody, you go recruiting a kid and you hear this guy's a gym rat, and Kevin lives it every day. He's just his approach doesn't change. When he was a freshman, he was barely in the rotation early on, and he just put his head down and kept going to work, and improved as the year went on. Sophomore year earns the starting job, does a great job for us, and then this year just kind of takes a huge jump and explodes into one of the best players in the league. In my opinion, he's had the best year in the conference, and he's a guy that lets the game come to him. He's made huge plays in the biggest games at the biggest moments. He knows he's got just a great feel and instinct for when it's time to step up. I can think of games this year where he's been quiet at the half, maybe 2 points, 4 points, and then boom, explosion in the second half to finish with 20. There was a game earlier this year, I felt like he was having a down game, and I looked up at the scoreboard, and I think he had 26. So to your point, when you have a guy who can be quietly gets you 26, that's a good thing. But he really has worked for everything he's got, and he makes myself and our coaches look pretty smart. Really sometimes in that game, we're just calling his number, trying to put him in position to make a play.
You also have Akaris Grossless, who certainly plays a good point guard when you need. You mentioned Dylan Cormack, but it was guys actually like John Seidman that jumped out at me, at least on Saturday. And you and I talked after the game about Josh Parra, and what I found interesting about Parra is you did not play him as much as I expected. The point of that question is, guys like Seidman could step up. Guys like you mentioned could come off the bench. If Parra's not having a game, or you don't think it's fitting the mold, and that's for anybody, you do have the pieces to put in and plug and play. How's that going to help you moving forward this week? How could that potentially help you in March?
Yeah, I think we can win a lot of different ways. Really, the big key for us is our identity's been on the defensive end of the floor, and we've got a lot of versatility on that end of the court to do different things and to be aggressive and pressure how we'd like. I mean, Josh is a great player. That particular game, maybe not his best day, but we would not be in the position we're in without Josh. He just can cause a whole lot of problems for teams with his ability to score inside, his rebounding. He's an extremely intelligent player. He's a good passer for a big, and he's been
yes.
I mean, he does an unbelievable job defensively for us. We chart deflections. He's had games he's led us in deflections from the center position, and it's with his activity and ball screen hedges and front in the post. And he's a smart player, and he's a hardworking player. But we've got other guys, to your point, that have had moments where they've been the best player on the floor. John Seidman, to me, most maybe underappreciated player I've ever been around or coached. He's a 4-year starter. He's been tasked with guarding opposing teams' best players. He's a great passer. He rebounds. He plays any position I ask him, guard any position I ask him. And I think he's won. It's a stat that is known around here as he was chasing it. But, John is one of 4 players in the history of F&M basketball to record 1,000 points, 500 plus rebounds, 300 assists. And you know this program well. When you're one of 4 names, and those other names are Giorgio Milligan and Chris Finch and Brian Minute, those are all outstanding players. And I think D3 fans will recognize at least, if not all 3, at least a couple of those names. John's one of, yeah. John's one of 4. And so he's been for 4 years. Like I don't want to see him graduate. I want to play as long as I can with him and this team. He's been a rock for me for 4 years.
You mentioned the defense. That stood out. It was a defensive game on Saturday. It played into your hands. You guys are top 10 in the nation in scoring. We just got We just got done talking to one of the best teams, WPI, in that same category. 60.9 points a game as of Saturday. You snuck it down to 60.8 after Saturday. Third best in the conference at shooting percentage. But 3-point percentage, you're top 25 in the nation at keeping them from hitting good shots. And I felt that was the key on Saturday. Gettysburg didn't get good looks on the outside because when they start rolling from outside, they're tough to stop. You didn't give them good looks. You disrupted a lot of things, took them a lot out of what they like doing. You seem to have funky defenses every time I watch you. But you also leaned on the man-to-man a lot on Saturday. Tell me the mentality of what the defense is, in your opinion, for what you guys try to accomplish.
Yeah, our defense, it's been really with this core group, you figured 3 years. Some of these guys are 4-year players for us, but really, this group has been together now for 3 years, the big core from the start, and it's just been building it. And really, at its core, it's a very simple defense. We just want to make teams react to us, and I think we're aggressive in most facets of the game. But we want, and we find that when you're aggressive early on, point of attack, it leads to just you're in less rotations, you're fouling less because less at the rim, and we really take pride in contesting every shot. We chart that. We try to contest at least 80% or more of shots every game. And one of our struggles, you'd pointed to some losses we had. I think one of the last elements we needed in that defense was our rebounding. We weren't rebounding the ball at a clip we needed to, but over the past 2-3 weeks, we have been. And, we had games against good rebounding teams in league. There was one game we were plus 14 on the glass. Yesterday was, I think, dead even. But it's definitely an identity of our team. I challenged our guys. We're trying to be the number 1 defense in the country, and they keep reminding me when we move up. Today, I think I misquoted and said that, hey, adjusted defense now, we're 6th, and I got a correction real quick. Hey, coach, we're 5th. And so I love that mentality that's the stat they're buying into and not who's scoring and this. And we've just got great pieces to do it. I think Vakaris, who you touched on, he's really an anchor to our defense. He's just incredibly active. He's so disruptive on the ball, off the ball. And there was a point in the season where I think he was struggling, and he was in terms of his offense, and we just kind of remind him, just focus on the defense. The rest is coming. I always have full confidence that in the big moments, his offense would come around. He's so talented. And sure enough, he was burying shots on Saturday and both at the line, and he buried a couple threes. I think he was 2 for 2 from 3. And once he kept the focus, and realized, hey, let me try to be 0 for 9 the first half. I know that.
Yeah, exactly.
And once he just focused more, stopped worrying about that stuff, and just focused on being the best defender he could, the rest of the game came. And it's when you have the head of your defense like that, he's usually guarding the ball. It's a contagious energy that spreads through our defense. And V, and it's a team effort. I mean, we talk about all five be connected, but I just wanted to celebrate him here too because of what he's done this season on the floor.
Yeah, 0 for 9 at halftime for your team that shoots normally 34% from beyond the arc. I noticed that and went, whoa, something's amiss here. That can't last. He hit a couple big ones early in that second half. He was about the only one. Nazia had hit one late. That was about all you needed, but you didn't need it. So I talked about earlier, you lost Christopher Newport and Virginia Wesleyan, and lost Gettysburg and Hopkins. You were 4-4 from December 1st through January 18th in those 8 games, 4-4. Since then, you have beaten Hopkins at home. You have beaten Gettysburg on the road. You're going to be at home as the number 1 seed no matter what on Friday and hopefully Sunday for the conference title game. So you know you can do it at home. How important was it, though, to have this stretch here? You have won 10 straight. You are rolling into the conference tournament. I think you were picked 3rd in the conference in the preseason, just like WPI. You've won the regular season, just like WPI. How important is it to be at the Mazer Center?
I mean, I'd play all the games there if we could.
Yeah, well, gee, I heard that from Glenn Robinson too, Nick.
It's, honestly, our first goal, really, we're just going to try to win the next one. I'm happy it's at home. Our goal at the start of the year, I had a lot of guys coming off the year we had last year. We went, I think, 20 wins, and we finished 1 game out of, I think there was a tie at the top of our league for first. We finished 1 game behind that. And we had a lot of guys that, and for the first time in a few years, I felt like it was a legitimate goal. Now they understand, and their goal was to win the conference. And the first step to that, I really believed, especially with our playoff format now, is finish at the top, win a regular season championship, get a bye, and get that home court, because this league is unforgiving on the road. And if you've got to win 3 games in a week, and they were able to do that. And I was just, that feeling. I've been fortunate enough to be on a team, here at F&M to win a top seed in regular season. And I just wanted that feeling so bad for these guys. And the bonus is we get to play at home. And I'm very confident, home road, we don't care where, but there's no doubt to have that and to have the bye, I think is great to be in front of our fans and family and all the people who've been pulling for us all year. They can come into Mazer and root for us. And we feel good at home. We feel like we're a team that with our defense can go out there and play well any given night.
You're likely going to be on the road should you make it to March. You'll make it to March of the conference championship tournament. You've already made it to March with the semifinals, but I digress. My point is, if you make the NCAA tournament, you'll probably be on the road. So that certainly is good that you can win there too, as you proved, in a tough environment on Saturday. That was one of the best crowds I've seen in quite some time. But it's interesting, this Centennial Conference, it's been Swarthmore, it's been Hopkins. Gettysburg made an appearance last year and got things interesting. Ursinus has been clipping at everybody's heels. Again, you were picked to finish 3rd. You win the regular season crown over, importantly, Gettysburg and Hopkins. Swarthmore not having a prototypical year. What's that mean to you to emerge to the top of this conference after really its dominance by others for so many years?
Yeah, no, it means a lot. Especially, I have so much respect for the programs in this league and the coaches in this league, and we don't take it lightly. It's something that I told the guys, and it's hard when you're in it to enjoy it. And I really tried to take a step back, at least after the game in the locker room, to enjoy it with the guys for a little bit. But it's really a great accomplishment. It's one that I think that for our guys, they've had to improve each year. Like, this was not a group. I've been in some locker rooms at F&M where you look in and guys have experienced a conference championship or played for a conference championship, been to NCAA tournament. Our locker room, when I looked out there, we had no guys that have had that moment. We've been close. We've been building towards it. And to see it finally, like, for us to take another step forward and everything we've talked about and all the work they've put in, it was pretty special. We're obviously feel like we don't want this thing to be done quick, and I don't take anything for granted. NPI now, Dave, we finally get a bigger non-conference schedule. I got a real nice SOS, and it doesn't matter now. So that now that NPI I'm sweating, but whatever happens, we're just trying to win the next game. And if we're fortunate to win that one, we have a chance to host the conference championship on our floor. We know we don't have to travel anywhere. And, really the best way to get to March is just get that AQ and not have to sweat on I guess there's not much sweating now with the numbers you see, but certainly would still prefer the AQ and the championship.
Yeah, sitting 27th on the latest NPI numbers certainly helps. You and Gettysburg are in good positions maybe to get out larges, but as you know, you don't want to leave it to that. Go and lock it up yourself. Nick, could keep talking to you for a while, as my wife figured out the other night when you and I were chatting after the game. But I got to let you go. I appreciate the time you gave us jumping on here after a miscommunication as well. But as always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
Just two quick things. First thing is obviously thank you for shining the light on our program. We're one that we just kind of like to put our head down and go to work. But this is something that I think is great for them. I was just glad to be able to talk about them and some of our great players, and really appreciate the work that you guys do in providing that spotlight to athletes at this level. And then the one other quick thing is I think last week was Managers Appreciation Week. I was a student manager, and I've got 3 rock star managers to help us out, volunteer their time at practice every day. Toby, Amanda, and Jake, they're awesome. So I just want to shout them out for Manager Appreciation Week. And for all the student managers out there, both former and current, just keep grinding. Being a part of college basketball is pretty special, and you don't know where this game can take you.
Well said, sir. Well said indeed. I agree. Managers are just as important as anybody else. Hey, take care of yourself. Enjoy the week. Good luck on Friday at the very least. Hopefully we'll be talking about the Diplomats come next week as well. But in the meantime, I know I'll run into you somewhere down the road and look forward to it as well. Take care, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Nick Nachay joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Quick note, I wrote X on email about the time, and then the body of the email had the right time. The first time was incorrect, so Nick jumping on there. Appreciate it. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll jump into women's basketball. We'll head back up to New England. We'll head to the great state of Maine. Talk Colby Mules women's basketball. They're the 2 seed in the NESCAC, which may seem a little bit surprising to some. We'll see if they can pull it off and knock off Bowdoin. There's still a game, though, before that has to happen. We'll talk to them coming up. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com. So much more ahead on this Monday edition.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.D3Hoops.com.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
I believe sportsmanship is a mutual admiration and respect for your fellow competitors. We all go through a lot to reach the point where we compete against one another. It's important to realize that. So once we're finally on the field or on the court or on the starting block, we look at each other as fellow human beings and not just competitors. Being able to recognize the hard work that other athletes are putting in creates a more positive and inclusive environment.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
We are calling you, all of you. We are calling all Division III schools to join our cause.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us
to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
Comprehensive learning is being able to adapt to experiences and apply the things that I learned. Being an athlete and juggling academics helped me grow as a person, and things that I've learned, I was able to apply it in another field, putting them into everyday life. Developing comprehensive learning helped me prioritize certain things to make sure I get to where I want to be.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference. For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else, and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit nabc.com and follow. Cutting off that commercials, we get rolling. We're running a little bit late, so we got to get moving as we head back to the great state of Maine. We go to Waterville, Maine. For anybody who is scoring at home, it's pretty central part of the state, just as you start to lose the more civilized part and enter more of the great northern woods. But you can find some mules up there, believe it or not. Yeah, it sounds strange, but for those of you in Division III who know it, we all know it's where Colby is located, and the women's basketball program up there is doing something maybe not everybody is realizing they're doing. They're the 2 seed in the NESCAC. They are behind Bowdoin because everybody is behind Bowdoin by 3 games. Bowdoin's 25-0 and 10-0 in conference play. Colby's 14-10 but 7-3 in conference play. Finished a game ahead of Amherst, Trinity, Connecticut, and Bates, also ahead of Middlebury and Tufts, and just knocked off Williams for the second time in 3 years, I think it was. Maybe it was 4 in the conference tournament. Oh, Middlebury. They knocked off Middlebury. Coach corrects me. She's right. I'm thinking about Bowdoin and knocking off Williams in the 1-8 game somehow. That got stuck in my head. But the 2-7 game
was where Colby got to enjoy it. And the good news is they don't have to go very far to go down to Lewiston. I'm sorry, no, Bowdoin's hosting the games, not Bates. So we're going to go down to Brunswick area of Maine for games. Coach, that means you get to be nearby. She joins me on the Hoopsville Hotline. But more importantly, you're number 2 in the NESCAC in a women's conference that has always been tough. Just tell me about the 7-3 part, because that's the most impressive.
Well, thank you so much. And again, thank you for having me on the show. Our team has been phenomenal. We started off the year with quite a few injuries. If you've looked at our roster, you start scrolling and it doesn't take long to get to the end of it. There's only 10 of our players on there. So we've dressed 10 all season, and we weren't healthy until conference, that first game. And their resilience throughout the injuries, the in and out, and embracing new roles, while we had our whole backcourt kind of navigating injuries, was exceptional. And once we got into conference play, this group has unbelievable goals, but what's beautiful about them is that their work ethic really aligns with those goals. And this conference is not easy. There's some unbelievable coaching and some stellar players. We just went up against one who dropped 34 on us again. But the players, the coaching is spectacular, but this group has just been on a mission from the very first day. And I dare to say, even from the last day of last season. And it's really been beautiful to watch them really put into action everything that they want to do.
By the way, she is Chenel Harris-Smith. We forgot to do the proper introduction a moment ago. Chenel, as in the perfume, do not tell my daughter. Brain fart on my part, because one of the biggest reasons we wanted you on the show was that win over Middlebury, because it was 197. 100-97. Another thing that's unheard of in NESCAC women's basketball are scores like that, and it was in double OT. We should point out, you scored 27 in the third quarter. You scored 22 in the fourth quarter. And in the 10 minutes that took the 2 overtimes, you scored 19. All 3 of those totals are more than you put up in the first 2 quarters individually.
Oh, yeah.
What happened?
Well, one, kudos to KJ and her spectacular team. They had so many veterans that are just unbelievable playmakers. Mustafa is one of the best scorers I think I've seen at all 3 levels, followed by stellar performances by Dixon and Tarini. So great performance by them. I think our girls in that first quarter just kind of, we're young. We don't have any seniors on our team. We return all 10 next season. And we came out really hard, and they threw a couple punches at us. And I think we were kind of like, okay, we're a little nervous. But once we settled in, we have great play and depth. Although we only have 10 players, all 10 can show up on any given night and give us everything they have, which could be double-digit scoring. And on this night, it was all 5 of our starters that they got into a groove and really started like executing and moving the ball. And it was great to watch them compete.
We should point out, by the way, it wasn't like this was 197 because it was double overtime. They shot 52% from the floor. They were 41% from beyond the arc at 7 of 17. You were 49% from the floor. They were 41 of 79. You were 38 of 78. You were 7 of 21 from beyond the arc. You both hit the same amount of shots from deep. And both of you were marginal from the free throw line, 17 of 28. I'm pretty sure you spent much of yesterday just shooting free throws. You got out rebounded in the game, yes. But you had 5 less turnovers. But the shooting numbers, Coach, both teams, nothing against the defenses, when you're both hitting shots like that, that's tough to stop, and it feeds everybody else, right?
Yep. Both teams defended, and our team, we defended, we had hands in the air. They hit some shots that you kind of just shake your head, like, how did that go in?
Fine.
Oh, literally. And then on the flip side of it, our girls just had this refuse to lose mentality. We were down 5 even in overtime, which is not a lot of time. And as the clock started kicking down, some teams would have wilted, but our girls are just
Yes.
resilient. And we had so many big plays made to extend the game and then ultimately win the game. You know, Chelsea Ibenegbu, number 11, our starting point guard. We were down 4 with a minute left to go, actually a minute and 1 second. And she stole the ball up at half and went away for a breakaway layup, which put us in position to then get a stop and extend the game. And then down the stretch, you know, Amelia Hanscom has really come along strong in this second part of this conference play and into the conference tournament. And she scored, I think it was like 4 of 6 shots in overtime. And we went to her down the stretch and just, although she's a sophomore, she was composed and strong with it. And, you know, again, just such a strong, tough mentality to make those big shots late in the game.
Yeah, she was 3 of 3 in the second overtime, 1 of 3 in the first overtime. And Kate Olnick also had a really good. By the way, you played 9 of the 10 players in that game. I feel bad for the 10th, who just rode the bench for the entire 50 minutes of that game. Again, you're the 2 seed. This isn't to scoff at. Your losses this season to Bowdoin by 5. That game was down in Brunswick.
Mm-hmm.
You lost at home to Williams.
Yep.
May not have been Williams' best year. Pat Manning, though, is still a good coach. I get it, but it was by 12.
Yep.
And you lost at Trinity by 7. Anybody who didn't pick up on that, they beat Amherst on the road. You beat Bates, your other main rival, at home by 3. You got some significant wins. We should point out you did play Middlebury and beat them earlier, of course, also in overtime by 3. You put a second half of a season together that was really remarkable. I know it's too early to sit back and enjoy that fact, but it's a 2 seed, which means you can avoid Bowdoin at all cost until the title game should you get there. It also meant you got Middlebury, and that means you get Trinity coming up.
Yep.
Has the team been able to appreciate what they've done at all?
You know, this is a group we set out and we put our goals on a sheet of paper that we walk around with every game we go to. I think they're very much in the moment and enjoying every step of the way, but not looking too far in the distance. So we know that our goal is to get to the championship. But, you know, we first need to get through Trinity. And although the second half of the season has been really enjoyable, one of the things we honed in on early was we are not whole yet. We started out the season and our leading scorer was still working her way back to being fully cleared in Kate Olinick. And then at NYU, our starting point guard and Chelsea Ibenegbu goes down. Lauren Cho, one of our backcourt players who's, you know, played significant minutes during her career, was out. So we actually had our center, Amelia Hanscom, being our backup point guard. So that beginning part of the season, there's so many things that won't still show up in that stat column, that win-loss column. But, you know, since we've been whole together, I think they're really enjoying reaping the fruits of their labor. This is a team that works and they love each other. The culture is phenomenal. And I'm proud of them. But more importantly, I know that they're proud of each other and enjoying each step.
Yeah, we didn't dwell on the beginning season, but you did win the first 2 out against Plymouth State and Westfield State, then lost 5 straight to Maine Maritime, well-coached team. NYU by 34. Be honest, Coach, that's close. That's close. That's less than their average. And University of New England by a couple. Lost to Bates in a non-conference game by 3. Lost to Bowdoin again, close game, 9 points before you went down to Daytona. You won a game against Lake Forest. You got spanked by Scranton. No disrespect, everybody except for Elizabethtown has. Speaking of which, we'll talk more about that game later. And lost MIT. But that was the turning point, and that's why we're focused on you here in the second half. Quickly, before I let you go, I do want to talk about you and your team because we get very used to in the NESCAC recruits coming from all over the country. We see them from California and from Illinois and from Texas because the NESCAC schools, much like the Ivy Leagues, are going to attract talent from a lot of different places. Colby always has felt like somewhat odd man out, and that's not a disrespect because Colby's a great college, but it doesn't always fit everybody's conversation. I look at your roster: Hopkinton, Mass, Staten Island, New York, Brookline, Mass, Medfield, Mass, Andover, Mass, Mansfield, Mass, Scarborough, Maine, Lexington, Mass. So you've got the Massachusetts side figured out. I'll come back to that in a minute. We do have one from Istanbul, Turkey, and one from Budapest, Hungary. First off, Massachusetts people know Maine. So how are you recruiting them to the center of that state? And also, what is it about your recruiting that is obviously going to be different than everybody else's?
Well, our college made a huge commitment when they opened our new facility.
Yes.
In the fall of 2020. And that has honestly been a huge lure for us. The resources that we have from the mental performance coaches, the nutritionists, all of the things through our peak performance program, plus the state-of-the-art facility, I think has shown our recruits the commitment that our college has to their success, but also provides an environment and atmosphere that is breeding success. For me, on a personal level, I think it's great when, yes, you can go to a winning team, but what we've talked to our players about is being a part of making history and doing something special, which this young group, again, no seniors, they are doing. They're really putting their stamp on this program and its history. But that's something we talked about in the recruiting process. So, when you come to Colby and you come to Central Maine, yes, you get a true college campus, but you have state-of-the-art facilities. You've got a campus that's growing exponentially. Every summer, I feel like a new building appears out of nowhere. And an unbelievable commitment to athletics. And when you even watch our game and you see the fans in the stands, it's just a really special time for Colby athletics. And the students that commit to us and that come to our campus on visits, they can feel and see that.
By the way, the new, I know COVID frustrated the hell out of Colby because they had this big announcement coming for the Harold Alfond Athletics and Recreation Center to be opened up. And it really put a damper on that. They pushed ahead. For anybody who's from Maine or knows Maine, that's the second Harold Alfond Arena, essentially. There's the big one that houses the Maine hockey program up at Orono. And so that's obviously a lot of Harold Alfond money going around to institutions and trying to help their way. But, Coach, it's making a difference because we're seeing a lot of changes there at Colby in general. And is that kind of the reason you're there? Because this is your first year and you're kind of attracted to Central Maine.
Well, I took the job in 2019 going into 2020, right before the world stopped.
I missed right. You're in your 6th year, of course.
So it's
sorry,
I feel
Coach.
Like I've been there a lifetime now. No worries.
I'm not sure what's in here.
You're okay. But what drew me to the college was just the atmosphere. When I took the job, my twin boys were 4 months old, which a lot of people thought I was crazy, but I really believed in the vision at the athletics department and believed in what I was able to do here, which is just build a successful program. And the pandemic was not my favorite time, nor did it help the timeline of building that.
Though you were in a decent state, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to go outside and still get together, and the facility opening early really allowed for us to start building our foundation culturally as we still got to be together. But the big draw for me has just been building a successful program. I take great pride in the culture of our program, the young woman that we've been able to bring to Colby, and being able to compete in one of the best conferences at our level. So that's what brought me here, and what keeps me here is I'm a competitor, and I love this conference and the amazing coaches. And again, the job's not done yet.
GP Gromacki alone is what and Pat Manning, and all these great coaches in the NESCAC, you're going up against it. I remember when I first went to look you up, I was like, what in the world would a Kent State graduate who played D1 hoops, who coached in D1, get attracted to the state of Maine? And I think what people may miss, other than somehow you convinced your husband, Sean, to go to Maine, I can say this, Mississauga, Ontario is where you're from.
You got it right.
Thank you. I try hard. That's where you're from. And so you have northern roots. Maine winters ain't nothing. Maine summers are enjoyable. Because you can appreciate no humidity. God, get me back to that. You've been down in Kent State. You've been down to Arkansas. You know the opposite of that. You started working your way back at Stony Brook and Binghamton. So for me, that makes sense. Yes. I get it. But you are a D1 student athlete and have been in D1. You've now in 6 years in Maine. selfishly, I start to look at that and read the tea leaves and go, oh, she's fallen in love with D3. Is that accurate? Or you just not found the right stepping stone to move on to because it just hasn't presented itself? And I ask that honestly.
No, I think that's a great question. And honestly, as you talk about recruiting, one of the barriers that I actually faced earlier on is people were like, you're just going to leave in like 2 years. So I don't know that I want to go there. And I'm like,
exactly.
6 years later, I'm still here, guys. The big thing for me is I love competitive basketball. And I love a challenge, and building this program with a conference, like you mentioned, Pat Manning, GP, all of these great coaches that have come before me that are here in this conference. That's a challenge, building a program that, taking it from where we were when I started, we were last in the conference, to now being second in the conference. So for me, I'm enjoying it. And for the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that have gone into building this, and getting these amazing young women on our roster, I'm excited to see what comes next for them and for this program. So I'm very much 2 feet down and present in the moment, not necessarily thinking about anything else other than trying to get this next NESCAC championship. But I will say, my husband, Sean, started in Maine. He was at UMaine with Richard Barron when we met, and I was at Stony Brook. So he was sold on Colby before I even knew what Colby was.
Okay. And he knew it wasn't all the way up there in Orono. So I get it.
To him, he was like, you're in the city. You're in the center of everything.
Right. I mean, Orono is where we now have 80-mile-an-hour speed limits. By the way, quick, God, I could go forever. So this is going to be a hint on something. We're going to be bringing some new stuff to Hoopsville in the future. Absolutely. Some of it's going to be going really in depth with coaches. I'm so far behind schedule, but I've got to ask. We again mentioned you're from Canada. Mm-hmm. You played D1. You've been throughout the U.S. Mm-hmm. But you were also captain of the Trinidad and Tobago women's basketball national team. Coach, and I'll be honest, Coach, there's no accent. If I were to think anything, you're from Midwest, the no accent land. All of this is mind-blowing to me. So quick question.
Yes.
I'm figuring there's got to be a family tie to how you're a TNT captain and playing for the national team.
Yep.
But what's this international flavor all about?
Well, I am actually first generation Canadian. So both of my parents are from the West Indies, Trinidad and Tobago. Oh, wow. In addition to Jamaica. So my parents were born there. Wow. So I'm a dual citizen of Trinidad. My father was a little disappointed since he was born and raised in Jamaica. But I was able to represent Trinidad after I graduated, which gave me a great opportunity. And obviously in my younger years, I played on the provincial teams for Canada. So that international flair has also helped with recruiting. We've had players from the UK, you mentioned Istanbul, Turkey, Budapest, Hungary. And with it being the NESCAC and such high academics and all that Colby has to offer, including our liberal financial aid, I've been excited about at least being able to recruit internationally and adding that flavor there.
That's cool.
I'm from all over. I'm like a one big melting pot because Kent State did adopt me. So there is some Midwest in there. Ohio's like my third or fourth home.
I kind of hear it. Side note, Maine's also known for its international, especially your neck of the woods with Lewiston and Waterville. Very much an international world in those areas, if people don't know. So I kind of get it. Again, I could go down so many rabbit holes. I would love to chat with you more. You are on my short list for the new format of Hoopsville in the future. But I'm so far behind, and we still have guests to get to, so we got to go. Chenel, thank you so much for your time. Congratulations to the team. This is an amazing accomplishment. Looking forward to seeing what happens this weekend. And I say this genuinely, even if you don't come out of the weekend with a knockoff of Bowdoin because you can't get in the NCAA tournament most likely unless you get the AQ, hats off on the season. And I look forward to seeing what this brings in the years ahead, though I think GP and Pat and the rest will not be thrilled to see what you might bring to the rest of the way. We have a tradition on this show, though, Coach. We always give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much again for the opportunity. For those who are watching, tune in Saturday, 4:30 p.m. As we take on Trinity, again, a team with no seniors and all underclassmen that will be returning, plus adding some more flavor from the tri-state and beyond. So really excited about where our team is, but also very excited about where we will continue to go.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again. Look forward to catching up with you down the road, and enjoy couple more months of winter up there.
I don't know about enjoy, but thank you.
I was being snarky.
Have a wonderful evening.
Take care, Chenel.
Bye.
Chenel Harris-Smith joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline. I am way behind schedule, but that was too much fun to not keep talking to her. Congratulations to Colby and the Mules as they are the 2 seed heading to Bowdoin to play Trinity on the weekend. We'll take a break. When we come back, we will keep talking D3 hoops. I don't know where I'm headed. It's women's basketball. I know that much at this point. Who's next? Women's basketball. Oh, I'm going down to Texas, McMurray. Another team that's turned it around in the ASC. Another 2 seed worth talking about. Back with more after this.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
I used to never really talk. Ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's NABC.com or NABC1927 on social media.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all. It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us. All of us.
To stop sexual assault. Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
If I lose, I'll respond with respect.
If I win, I'll back it up with humility.
If I fail, I'll rise up with honor. It's tough for us to put it all on the line.
Don't undo my hard work with poor sportsmanship.
Respect. It's the name of the game.
Coach of the Year, Administrator of the Year, All-America Team, Wade Trophy. The WBCA doesn't just honor coaches, but players, administrators, and much more. The WBCA strives to honor those who have contributed to the advancement of women's basketball. Celebrate the present, honor the past, look to the future.
Sorry, folks, lost track of the time there. Ad break rolled out, and here we are. We're back. I'm Dave. You've been watching the show, and we've been having some great interviews today. We're running behind schedule, so I'm going to waste a little time as we go from Maine to Texas and still talk women's basketball, because if you happen to go down to the American Southwest Conference, no, not American South. Wait, hold on. Where am I going? What am I talking about? Used to be American Southwest Conference. That's what's so confusing. Now in the SCAC in the second year. But if you look at that race, you might find something a little peculiar. And that peculiarity is because there's a Warhawk on the prow who is taking the number 2 seed by storm. McMurray, incredible turnaround to be one of the best teams in Texas right now. Drew Long's women's squad is playing tremendous hoops, and they're looking to maybe punch a ticket into the NCAA if they can get past a few teams, including Colorado College, who we had on the show the previous time. Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline to talk about it is the aforementioned head coach of the McMurray Warhawks. It's Drew Long. Coach, first and foremost, thanks for taking the time. Sorry I'm running late. Welcome to the show.
No worries. Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Seriously, the turnaround's what jumps off the page for those who don't know. Double-figure wins sounds great for everybody. They'd always love to get there, but you always got to start somewhere. You guys started at 3-20 in the 21-22 campaign. The next season, 12-13. By the way, 2-15 in the ASC at the time. 12-13 in the 22-23 season. 6-12 in the ASC. Last year, 16-10. 10-6 in the ASC. I guess going to the SCAC was the solution, right, Drew? Because you're 21-4, 14-2 in conference play. You should have just gone to the SCAC a heck of a lot sooner.
Yeah, it helps when you got some young kids that you played a lot of minutes as freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. So we finally had a chance to get them kind of a older group, I should say. Was able to add a couple transfers as well, which helped give us some depth this year for sure.
What is it? Yeah. What is it about? Obviously you had to get used to a very different schedule this year.
Mm-hmm.
The travel's a bit different. Granted, the ASC was splintering left and center. So getting used to new travel was kind of already happening. You guys were part of that change, but you're traveling to Colorado, for example, or did you travel to Colorado this year? Yes, you did.
We did, yeah.
And a lot of other factors. So what's this season just been like from a bedrock, just newness part of it?
Well, you kind of get in the habit of staying in the same hotels every year and eating at the same places.
Yes.
And so having to find new places to sleep and new places to eat just kind of added another wrinkle to the travel schedule. Also with the ASC, we played Thursday, Saturday, and in the SCAC, they played Friday, Saturday. With our travel partner being about 3 hours away, a lot of teams have requested Friday, Sunday games. So that was different, getting used to playing Sunday noon games and not being at church or being on the basketball floor. So, but it's been good. It's been a good adjustment. A lot of the teams in the SCAC we kind of played in non-conference the last couple of years, so we were familiar with them a little bit. But obviously, traveling out to Colorado is a trip you don't normally make, and so that took a little bit of getting used to. And also, you get there and it's about 12 degrees and snowing, and you got a bunch of kids that never really seen that before. So that adds a little bit to it as well. We were talking off air about the fact that, Texas boy went up to play at Northwestern, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So you kind of appreciate that. But also, their elevation is a different factor too. But again, you didn't necessarily go away from the ASC. You still got games in against them this year. So it's been an interesting kind of hodgepodge this year in terms of you still played ASC teams. You're now playing more SCAC teams, and yet you're still sitting here at 21-4 after being 16-10 last year. You talk about the minutes the sophomores and freshmen had when they were sophomores and freshmen, but that's one factor. What else has kind of coalesced here to kind of come together so nicely to be at your spot, as it were? Yeah, I think we talk a lot about it as a program, just trusting the process and growing together, and all 15, 16, 17 girls being bought into what we're trying to do. And I think this year they really have. We added some transfers that we're kind of like the number 1 and number 2 player on their previous team. And they came in and accepted their role as maybe the 5th or 6th player. And that was huge. I mean, to be a coach, to be able to sit there and know that you have somebody like that coming off the bench, giving you 17, 18, 19 minutes. So hasn't been a huge drop off for us in production. We've kind of put a premium on shooting the basketball, and we've been able to get a couple girls to come in and help. I think right now we got 4 girls, high 30s, and a couple in 40% from behind the mark. And so, that kind of putting it all together and being able to stay healthy, that's a big part of it. We had some injuries towards the end of last year. So I was talking with somebody else earlier today, and I think the depth has helped us because we're 3 or 4 of our girls were logging 36 plus minutes a game last year.
Hey, folks, welcome back. Sorry, technical gremlin. Computer completely crashed in the middle of our chat with Drew Long, who's still on the Hoopsville Hotline, patiently waiting. And if you're a guest who's coming up, I am coming to you shortly. But Drew was chatting about his team and how great they are this season. Coach, thanks for taking the time and bearing with us. We were talking about just, again, that experience that you have at McMurray,
Absolutely.
what they've been able to bring to the table, dealing with, depth. Not dealing with depth, but having the depth because of all the challenges you all have had this season. When you look at now everything from the end, as it were, where was the turning point? Where was the growth point of this season?
Well, I think for us, when we went to UMHB first couple of weeks and we played ETBU and UMHB back-to-back days, and for us, being familiar opponents from the ASC, who we hadn't had a whole lot of success against in my first couple of years. And so to be able to get 2 big wins back-to-back against 2 really, really good teams really kind of changed the mindset of the locker room. And that's the message we kind of told our girls after that game was, because I got a couple text messages saying, "Hey, great win. Did you guys expect that?" And I told them, I said, we expect to win every game we're in. And that was the message we kind of told our girls after the game was, we're good enough, and we're good enough to not just compete, but to win these games. And other people believe it. This locker room has to believe it as well. And so I think for us, that was a big mental hurdle to get over because of, again, the lack of success we had against those 2 particular opponents. And so we were kind of able to ride that wave, so to speak, through the Christmas break and into the beginning of conference play.
Obviously, a big challenge ahead. The bids were already decided. We all know where you're going to be for the games this weekend, and you know what you have to play for, as it were. You know that you're going to have to deal with eventually some really good basketball teams, even if you are the 2 seed. Games are in Irving, Texas. How do you approach this week? How do you approach maybe some rarefied air for you all, but also just understanding what is ahead for you as a challenge?
Yeah, we sat down and talked as a staff today just about the preparation for kind of having the bye is good, but you also don't know quite sure who you're playing. So we got either Trinity or St. Thomas. Both really good, active. I'd like to pick you up full court and turn you and just kind of make it an ugly game. So the prep will be a little bit similar for that game, but then you also got to look forward to the next day as well. And so trying to find common ground with certain opponents and try to streamline your approach and your preparation for them. The good thing is we played majority of these teams twice, except for, Colorado College. So we played them once at their place. So it'll be a little bit different. We also just came off of playing 5 games in 7 days, I think it was.
Yeah.
Finish out the regular season. So they had today off, which was good to get caught up on some schoolwork and try to get their legs back underneath them a little bit. And gave our staff some time just to sit down and really dive into some games and try to come up with a game plan.
Quickly before we let you go, a little bit about yourself. We just talked to our last coach from Colby, D1 background. We joked about that before the computer crash, about being playing in Northwestern and such. You had some coaching experience as well on the men's side of things at Colorado, at Air Force. You were at Southwestern for a season as an assistant. You then kind of stepped back from the game a little bit. I think you became a high school basketball coach for a period of time and then kind of washed your hands of it, it seems. That's my own term. What drew you back? What drew you to women's basketball? What drew you to Division III other than that 1 year at Southwestern?
Yeah, I think Division III is a great level. It's one of the few levels that you can actually have your hands in a lot of things. And so that was a good kind of landing spot for me as a young coach, trying to learn everything I could, and then made the jump to Division I. All honesty, at Air Force, I had a health scare, had a cancer diagnosis, went back to Houston, did treatment at MD Anderson. And when I got the all clear, that's when I was kind of coaching the high school down there for about a year and a half. And then good friend of mine was the athletic director at Abilene Christian, and he had offered me a position to get into athletic administration, and something that I always thought I'd want to get into after I was done coaching. And so I took that jump early. And then after 6 or 7 years of kind of being a fireman for the entire athletic department, I had made some good friends just in the athletic administrative world, and one of them was the former AD at McMurray, and he said, "Hey, I got an opening coming up, and would you be interested?" And I have 3 girls myself, and so being able to coach them during that time I was in athletic administration really kind of helped me make that transition from the men's game over to the women's game. And just extremely fortunate. It's in the same town. I don't know if you're familiar with Abilene, but you got ACU, Hardin-Simmons, and McMurray all within 5 or 10 minutes of each other. So it was a great opportunity to get back into coaching as a head coach. Didn't have to move the family. And just kind of one of those right place, right time type of deals. And extremely fortunate. Got a lot of good people that I work with, and universities just been tremendous to me and my family. So been really good.
Well, Coach, I appreciate the time and your patience. Sorry for the computer crash there. I will get you back on this show to give you a little bit more time to talk about your great team in the future. But congratulations on the season. Tremendous turnaround and success, no matter what happens. I realize you got to win the AQ to get in, but I think the SCAC's wide open. Nothing against Colorado College or anybody else. I think it's anybody's for the taking, so we wish you luck and look forward to seeing how it plays out. Maybe we're talking about you next week as well. In the meantime, we have a tradition on the show. We always give the guest the final word, and while you had to patiently wait for me, we will still give you that final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuned in?
No, we're just extremely blessed and fortunate to be in the position we are, and couldn't be more happy for the girls on the team, and just excited about the upcoming tournament and hopefully an opportunity to play beyond just next weekend. So appreciate you having me and appreciate you taking the time.
Well said. Congratulations again. Thanks for your time and welcome. Not welcome to Division III, but thanks for being here. We enjoy when programs are successful and we get perspectives from those who aren't the prototypical ones. So thank you again. Take care, and we'll look forward to talking to you in the future.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Drew Long joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Going to take a quick break. When we come back, try and fix some things. Get Bill Saul from Calvin on. You're watching Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops. Back with more after this.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that. A lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com. The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC 1927. That's NABC.com or NABC 1927 on social media. Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, as we continue to roll along. Haven't gotten the tweet out, but we will here in a moment as we get to talk Knights basketball with Calvin men's basketball. Appreciate you bearing with us as, our stream crashed. Gotta love it when technology. Listen, for the most part, for those of you who know this show, for the most part, we've been having a great season, albeit a few weeks. That's the first time I've seen the blue screen of death. Granted, I saw it twice today. Gonna have to look at the computer and figure out what's going on before our next show on Thursday. Reminder, Thursday's show will be at noon Eastern. To pivot now, head up to Michigan and the MIAA. And admittedly, when I was doing my top 25 information this year, I saw that Calvin was not returning its All-American, who got injured in the NCAA Tournament last season. And I thought, okay, listen, let me see how they do. Calvin struggled. Let's be honest. They struggled out of the gate. Lost 5 straight, and 6 of 7 to start the year. Losses to Platteville, Cal Lutheran, Oshkosh, Heidelberg, Emory, and Oshkosh twice. If you look at that and you go, it's actually not bad in terms of teams. No, it's not. They did beat St. John's by 4. Since the loss to Oshkosh on December 5th, something's working. Because they've won 18 straight. They went undefeated in conference play. Beat Trine twice. Say that 3 times fast. And are playing extremely well. So it's about time I got Matt and Zach's favorite man on the show. It is Bill Saul joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline. Coach, it is always great to see you. Thank you for your patience tonight on our delay. In the meantime, though, congratulations. I'm confused. You didn't have your best player, and here we are. What am I missing?
Well, if you talk to me November, first week of December, I'd say I don't know. We were in a struggle a little bit, and it's been great to see where we've come, but it was a process. Trust me. We had a lot of heart to hearts with the team and really trying to figure out what's our niche. What are we going to be great at? I mean, there's only so many things you can really define of what you're going to be really, really good at. And I think we've really made a huge jump in that we're an elite defensive team. We're playing as well, I think, as any team defensively in the country. And I think our guys have gotten more comfortable with themselves on the offensive end without having Jalen there, right? I think Jalen was always hey, you can run horrible offense for 15 seconds, throw it to him, and then he'll score, right? Well, now it's, we have to execute. We have to do things the right way. And it's been really great to see the growth of our guys, hands down.
You had to have been scared coming out of the gate. Yes, you knew your All-American wasn't coming back. You had a schedule to beat all old SOS schedules. In the fact that you're playing Platteville, Cal Lu, Oshkosh twice, Heidelberg, Emory, St. John's. You also had a game against La Crosse, non-Division III against Grace Bible. You had a schedule, but you're 7 games in. You've got 1 win against St. John's, albeit a good one, at home by 4. And you've got 2 losses to Oshkosh and all these. You had to, and I don't mean this derogatorily, but you had to have thought at one point, is this just worth throwing in the towel, getting our guys the experience they need, prep them, get them ready so that we can be ready for a wholehearted effort next year? Or the fact that you still had conference play ahead of you give you just pause but not panic?
I think that's the best way to put it. You're always gearing towards January. That's when truly the league starts, right? And for us, even though we were losing those games, I kept on seeing progress. I mean, I'm just being honest. In the beginning of the year, we just couldn't defend anybody. We couldn't guard the door. I mean, we're giving up 80 points a game. But yet we have a lot of guys back that were pretty good defenders. And Jalen's not there, but you got Chenel Harris-Smith, who, again, I think is one of the most elite defenders in the country. Owen Vernado. We had all our starters back that played in those games, in meaningful games in March. So it was more about not understanding, where we were at, but where we could go. And I think that was really cool to see, is that even we played Emory, we lost the game, but there was progress. I mean, we were in that game, and that's the whole thing. A lot of these games, that's were true. In the games, right? So, it was more about finishing the games, finishing the process. And the great thing is we played at lacrosse, and it was a miserable game. Both teams played really hard, but no one could make a shot. I mean, I think both teams shot like 30%, and we hit a 3 at the buzzer to win by 1. And I will say this, right? As hard as we played in that game, if we lose that game, I don't know where we go, right? But that was a turning point. That really started just the belief in, hey, we're doing the right things, we're going to get there. And then it just catapulted to where it went.
Yeah, I mean, we should point out, listen, Platteville was a 1-point loss. Cal Lutheran was a 10-point loss. Oshkosh, the first time, was by 8. Heidelberg was by 7. Emory, as you point out, was close. It was by 9. And you lost to Oshkosh by 4 the next time. So, yes, I'm making a big deal of this 1-7 start. But in grand scheme of things, you're a couple of possessions away from a 3-4 start, or a 4-3 start, or a 5-2 start. Despite the fact that, again, you're not playing with your All-American, who I think that team last year really relied on, not negatively. I just mean that became the focal point and made you guys almost unstoppable. Something clicked, obviously. You beat lacrosse. You beat Grace Bible. You get a break. You beat Wilmington. You get another break. You beat St. Norbert. Then you get into conference play, and you just go on a tear. Hope was a 5-point game. Trine was a 4-point game. Hope was an 8-point game. Olivet, interestingly, was a 5-point game. That gave me pause. The next time you played Trine was a 17-point game. That's 4 games that were close, Coach, out of 14.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Right.
Yeah. What is it about? What's working with this team? What is it?
Well, I think we have realized, and I guess this is what's always interesting when you talk about different teams, right? So when you have the quote unquote superstar, you start to rely on that a lot, right? I mean, that's how we're going to play. And now we are such a sum of our parts where everybody has to do their job and everybody needs to defend and everybody has to be able to look to score. And we've had, my goodness, I think we're at 8 different guys that have led us in scoring and in a particular game. So, it's pretty amazing. And so, it's truly a team effort every time you go out there. And what I love about it is that, because we're pretty deep, I mean, we can go 9, we're able to kind of keep the pressure on our opponents. And it's been really, again, cool to see these guys really come together and really play at a really high level.
Yeah, they're playing at a high level. You're outscoring your opponents by 12 points a game. You have 3 guys in double figures. Owen Vernado at 15.6 points a game, 7.2 rebounds, which leads the team. Shoots 46% from the floor, 35% from deep, 80% from the free throw line. That is a threat you do not want. By the way, he also hands out the most assists. Uchenna, as you mentioned, Egakezi, 15.4 points a game, 6 rebounds a game, 56% from the floor. And Trevin Winkle, just real quick, 10.6 points a game, shoots 48% from the floor. that is, I know it's the rest of this team. We will get to them, but that is a hard trio to stop when they dish, rebound, and y'all shoot well.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what's kind of fun, right? Is they've been able to find themselves. I think that's what's really cool. We've changed. I mean, Truss, as a coach, I had to change really a completely different offensive philosophy, but we've opened the floor out. We're 5 out a lot of times motion, allowing these guys to get downhill. They're not afraid to kick, as you can see by the high assist by the guys that are leading scorers.
Yeah.
And so, we have been able to adjust really on the fly, to be quite honest. And it's funny, right? It isn't like I didn't know Jalen wasn't coming back, but man, I think I kind of
what, May?
Yeah, May. I knew he wasn't coming back, but I didn't do a good enough job of trying to figure it out, right? And so we did a little more figuring it out on the fly. I thought I knew what I was going to do. It's always coaching, right? And then you have all these wonderful things in your mind of what you think you're going to do in the playbook, and they all stink. So then you got to start over, right? And we became way more of a motion team, really guys seeing and playing, for each other, and it's been awesome to watch.
Listen, Matt can probably attest to this and some others behind the scenes. When you guys were rolling along a couple of weeks ago, people were starting to put you in the top 25, and I was holding back, and I got a little slack for it behind the scenes. And my argument was, okay, but they've got Hope and Trine ahead. I want to see those games. Yeah. I understand what everyone's saying, but to the point we just said, there weren't any close games in the conference. The conference isn't deep. It's top heavy. So yep. I wanted to see how Hope and Trine did. Well, okay, you went and beat Hope and Trine, did it twice, and I'm all in now. I get it. That all said, the conference tournament's ahead of us. You've got to get through that gauntlet, as it were, because the old stupid adage, and I say it all the time, is you can't beat a good team 3 times. And you're going to have to do that at least once coming up to get the AQ. And then you're going to get into the NCAA tournament. And as you know full well, the NCAA tournament on the men's side is going to be bonkers because there's all good teams. Mm-hmm. How do you keep everyone motivated? How do you keep them focused on, we've won 18 straight. Some of these have been easy. It's no longer going to be that case.
Well, here's the good thing, right? And it's actually not a good thing. It's a horrible thing. But, so we've got these juniors and, a few seniors in the program now, and we have stunk it up in the MIAA tournament for the last 3 years. We lost the Hope in the finals. That would have been Uchenna's freshman year.
Yeah.
We lost the Hope again in the finals at our place when Jalen was a freshman. And last year we lost the Hope in the semifinals.
Well, and it wasn't close.
And it wasn't close. It was an old-fashioned kicking. So, for us, if that's not motivation enough, I don't know what is, right? So, I mean, we talked today. We took the day off, but had the guys just, kind of their sentiment. And, I mean, probably the best one is, Uchenna, because he came back for his 5th year, right? And when he came back, first thing he said to me is that I'm going to change the outcome, whatever I can do for the MIAA tournament, because I'm tired of losing that, and I'm tired of someone else cutting down the nets. So,
fair.
The hope is that carries itself forward to everybody, right? And I will say, from a coaching standpoint, I think for the last 2 years we've kind of tried to coast a little more. Everybody's tired, everybody's a little mentally and physically spent. And I told them, hey, the next 2 days we're ramping it up. This is going to be preseason basketball for a little bit. Because we got to go. We got to be ready for, again, a really good Olivet team. And then, even if you do win that game, what do you get? You get Hope or Trine all over again. So it's tough.
Yeah, and most likely in the NCAA tournament, I think you're pretty much assured to get in. I don't remember the numbers now. The computer crashed. I had it all in front of me at one point. But you can't look ahead. But at the same time, that's on the line too, right? Like, that potential's there, that if you don't get it done necessarily in the tournament, you don't want to leave it in the hands of other teams having a good day and your numbers change, right? So that's got to be a bit of a motivation too, because I feel like you have unfinished business in that tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And, last year we lost the hope in the semifinal. And then I had to painfully watch on Saturday. As you know, John Carroll and Mount Union are down to like the final wire. And I pretty much know if Mount Union wins that game, we're out.
Yeah.
And, I just rather not go through that again. So, but there's no easy task. And then when you did NCAA tournament, you look I think that's the thing. I would say this year in Division III, there's maybe no great team, right? But there are just a ton of really, really good teams. So, and that's what you expect. That's what you want, but that's how it's going to go. So from here on out, welcome to the gauntlet and get ready to roll.
Well, that's the truth. Quickly, thanks for joining me on the show, albeit we were delayed. We did notice that you have picked up a bit of a D1 atmosphere around Calvin. We knew it was unique around there, but you've got a radio show now on weekly. You're required to be a little bit more tech savvy, it would seem, Coach, and I want to applaud you on that. Have you been getting tips? Have you been trained? What's going on behind the scenes, Coach?
Behind every good coach, there's lots of good assistants that are young and have a clue about technology. So, today, first off, we had a Zoom session. I didn't know how to get on the Zoom, so then my assistant Derek DeVries took care of that. And then I'm trying to get on here with you, and my daughter had to help me with that. So, a tech savvy is not me, but I'm still working on it.
I wouldn't have known. You got on the Zoom better than I did tonight, which I got to give you credit for. I know you don't want to look ahead. You lose at Chenel. I would assume he's a graduate student. I don't see how the Illinois native can find another year out of his season.
We can try.
You got a couple other seniors, graduates on here, but you supposedly will bring Overway back.
Yep.
I say that because I don't want to assume anything, right? Until they're
no, he's back. He's
No, I know, but I don't want to assume.
Right.
But then everybody else we talked about's back.
Yeah.
And you bring Overway into the equation. You've got to appreciate what's ahead at the very least, even if it doesn't work out perfectly this year.
Oh, for sure. But, just like you said, you've got to take every year, make the most out of that year, right? Because you don't know what the future is going to be. And so I think that's the one thing with the injury with Jalen. In all reality, we kind of thought this was going to be the year, right? You get Chenel back as a grad, you've got a really experienced group of guys, and, an injury happens, and that happens to lots of teams. That's part of basketball. So you have to relish the moment that you're in and make the most of it. And, that's what we're going to do here. We're going to, our guys are super excited. They are really motivated, and, I can't wait to get back out there and see what they can do.
And it's going to be at your place. Going undefeated in conference play gives you the right to make sure everybody has to go through your stomping grounds. Quickly, trying winning the national championship. Does that add a driving force, a little carrot or a stick to the conversation too?
Oh, yeah. Brooks is he's a good friend. I actually, when I was an assistant at Hillsdale, he was a player there, and I recruited him to come to Hillsdale. So I've known him for years.
Yes. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And then Andy Bronkema, who was at Ferris State, my assistant, ended up winning a national championship at Ferris. So understand, two of my better friends got a ring. So it's a little bit of a bitter pill to swallow, but we know those are not easy, right? You got to take your chances when you get them and see what you can do.
Well, hey, listen, hats off. I'll admit, I saw the 1-6 start and I thought, I knew Overway was gone, but this is not how I saw it playing out. Even if they were close, they can beat you up. I've gone through an 0-for season, and 12 of the 17 were close.
Yeah.
One shot goes this way and we're winning. So it can trickle. It can trickle. Well, so can winning, and you're at 18 games straight since. That is just impressive. I tip my hat. Hell of a job by your team to rise above. Congratulations on what you've accomplished so far. Look forward to talking about the nights in March and hopefully running into you. somewhere down the road. But as always, we give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
Oh, hey, first off, happy belated birthday. Still rolling, huh? Good for you. Again, thanks for everything you do. It's awesome. I love that you guys are back and rolling. We got to get a Calvin jersey back there somewhere. I'll get Snyder on that. I'll get Snyder on that ASAP.
Yeah, I got Ohio Wesleyan here, and you're welcome to send one.
Okay.
Send me an email. I'll give you the address.
Okay. Sounds good. But hey, thanks for everything. And we're looking forward to it. It's really cool to see that fan support that makes this NCAA so cool, right? I think between us, Hope, and Trine, I think we're the top 4 or 5 attendance, and we just had a game against Trine. I think we almost had 3,000 people there. It's just cool, right? And it's what makes D3 really special.
I still the game Calvin at Hope for what was it, the 100th time? One of the greatest atmospheres I've been a part of in Division III. You guys certainly do have great fan support. Thanks again for the time. Take care of yourself. Look forward to catching up soon. And in the meantime, enjoy it.
Hey, thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach. Bill Saul joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Great to chat with him. Appreciate him staying patient with us. Speaking of staying patient, the Ohio Wesleyan coach, we just mentioned the jersey up there. That's a women's basketball jersey from Ohio Wesleyan. Well, their coach joins us next. Talk about their undefeated season in the NCAC, something that program's never done. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3 Hoops. Back with more after this.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that. A lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's nearly 850 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over 2 decades. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
The National Association of Basketball Coaches is the nation's premier professional development and advocacy organization for basketball coaches at every level. The NABC strives to serve as the voice for coaches on national issues while advancing the core value of leadership, service, advocacy, education, and inclusion. To learn more about the NABC and to become a member, visit NABC.com and follow the NABC on social media at NABC1927. That's NABC.com or NABC1927 on social media.
Responsibility is being accountable for your words and actions, first and foremost. It also is an obligation to be a positive influence in the communities around you. Being in a D3 program, you're going to have lots of different opportunities. You're not just an athlete, you're also involved in student life. Your academics are extremely important. We give a lot of our student athletes responsibilities right from the start by giving them leadership opportunities, by having them engage in the community, be a positive influence. That's being a responsible person.
There are over 480,000 college athletes. Only 2% would go pro. That means over 470,000 will not get a shoe contract. No autographs. No private jets. No fan clubs. No Hall of Fame inductions. Instead, they will walk away with something much more valuable.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Just note, we are not going to take a break after our next guest because we are so far behind. We will go back to news and notes after that, including an interview that I was supposed to edit and get all fancy, but because of the crash, well, we don't have that version. So we're going to have to go to the raw version. Elizabethtown got a big win over Scranton this weekend, and Ryan Scott happened to be in attendance. So we'll hear from the Elizabethtown coach coming up. In the meantime, going undefeated in the NCAC is usually reserved for DePaul. The women's program there seems to dominate that conference. And, well, not so much. This year, it's Ohio Wesleyan. We had them on the show last year. They did amazingly well on the year. And this year, they decided to raise the stakes. They went undefeated for the first time in conference play for themselves. That's never happened in program history. And they're marching into the conference tournament and marching into March with some confidence. Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline to talk all about it is Stacy Lobdell, the head coach of the Battling Bishops of Ohio Wesleyan, the 14th ranked Battling Bishops. Coach, thank you for your time and waiting for me. Welcome to the show. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I definitely worth the wait. I was teasing it's past my bedtime, but I stayed up, so I appreciate you having me on.
It was Bill Saul's bedtime, too. He was willing to stay up as well. Let me start with the 14-0. 14-0 in this conference. Admittedly, maybe to pause a step back from where we're associated, but to get through a tough conference nonetheless is tough to do. Did you have any thoughts that you could have gone 14-0?
You know, I'm sure it was a thought, but I do remember saying out loud, you know, in order to, I think, win the conference this year, it's, you know, one loss is the only thing I think we can really settle for. So, you know, thinking about going undefeated, you know, you don't ever say that, of course, but you know, our conference has really raised the bar in the last few years, and, you know, credit to DePaul when they came into our conference. I think that's really when it started. They really raised the bar for us. And, you know, I was excited about it when they came in, believe it or not, because it was something that, you know, when you have a national, you know, program come into your conference, it automatically raises the expectations. So it's been exciting. And, you know, I guess we just tried to take it one game at a time, and, you know, thankfully, that's the way it ended up.
Yeah, well, it worked out very nicely, to say the least. This is a team that, again, we had you on last year because your team had made this great turnaround, had become very competitive in this conference. That doesn't mean it necessarily translates to the next year, even if you bring everybody back. Heck, we were just talking to Bill Saul about the fact, you know, you lose an All-American, you got a lot of great talent, but they started 1-6. What was the motivation going into this year? Was it because there was unfinished business from last, or was it because there was an understanding we've got a good team, we got to take advantage of it now?
Yeah, I mean, I think we felt like it was unfinished business a little bit, but honestly, I think it was more, you know, it was the latter. We just had an understanding that we really were excited to have, you know, everyone returning on our team minus Alyssa Greiner, who, you know, had an unfortunate injury late in the summer. And we just, you know, looked at it and said, look, this is another opportunity. We have 3 fifth-year seniors coming back. You know, credit to them for really wanting to commit again to the program. And I guess they felt that they weren't finished yet. But other than that, we really just kind of looked at where we were in the spring and said, you know, let's make sure we make the most of this opportunity. And honestly, that's been the drive since we've had that conversation.
The conversation must have worked out because here we are, and this team is clicking, as we said, on all cylinders, 14-0 in conference play. You're the number 1 seed in the conference, which is nothing to shake a stick at. You get to control things a bit, as it were. You've got you don't know who you have coming up, right? Because you get the bye, but you at least get to be at home coming up on Thursday,
right. Friday.
How do you prepare for it?
Well, I think it's how we've kind of prepared all year. It's more about what we do, and playing, whatever team we play for the third time. Not a whole lot is going to change. So I really think, we took the opportunity today in practice to have a kind of a tough physical practice, after having a day off yesterday. And then, tomorrow we'll just be watching film and kind of preparation. We're going to watch probably more of our film than, wait for the opponent. And then they play tomorrow night at 7:00. So then we'll know, whether we play the winner of the Wittenberg-Oberlin game. And then we play Friday at 5. So really just kind of going back and looking at, we had a conversation, where are we? Where do we want to go? And then just kind of using that as a starting point to then once we find out who our opponent is, we're preparing for, I think, both at this time, kind of looking at the similarities, and then we'll go from there on Wednesday.
Yeah, Oberlin's been a pretty competitive team over the last few years. Denison, Wittenberg, DePaul, all in the tournament, have been pretty competitive programs over the years as well. When you look back at this team, you've got some experience. You've also got some youth. It's feast or famine, right? You got a lot of seniors who've had 3 years of experience under the belt heading into this year, and then you got a bunch who are brand new to all of this. You got to meld that all together, right?
Yes, and on top of our 3 fifth years, we have 5 seniors. So we have 8 veterans in our program, and when you think about what that entails, 8 players that have been in our program for 4 or 5 years. There's not much they don't know, and they really do a great job of, they know what we're about, they know our identity, they know what we want to try and do. And then, to your point about adding depth, they add the depth, and our depth, really improved. And then we're lucky, fortunate to have younger players that, we have Macy Miller, who's a sophomore, who's, contributing now in the starting role this year with Alyssa Greiner out. We just, it's a tribute to our culture, to our leadership, and our, of our 3 fifth years and our seniors, really just helping everyone, come together and kind of meet in the middle and then say, what are we going to do with this opportunity? And it's exciting. I mean, I think youth always adds excitement, and then your veterans add that maturity that it takes, to be able to compete for a conference championship and then go on in the NCAA tournament.
You've played 11 players in almost every game. You've played 16 players in the majority of your games. There's certainly a lot of experience. What I find also interesting is your 2 best players in terms of scoring are not necessarily outside shooters. You're kind of doing this from the inside out. Casey Schipfer, 20 points a game, 6.5 rebounds. Macy Miller, 16 points a game, 8.5 rebounds. They've totaled 4-12 from beyond the arc. That's not their game. They are inside presence at 55 and 49% shooting. You got to get to Lauren Dennison and Elizabeth Holman to get the outside shooters, and they're below 10 points a game. In this day and age where it's all about the outside shot and analytics and all that, that's polar opposite, right, Coach?
I guess I've always been old school, so maybe I'll credit a little bit to that. But, I think a lot of it has to do with our defense. Our defense and our press and our tempo dictate so much of our offense. And that's where Macy picks up, unofficially, probably 6 to 8 points just off of our press. And then Casey really is just a 3-dimensional player. She's a 3-dimensional scorer. She's worked on her game. We always tease. I think she shoots probably 65% from the 15, foot area from the field. And then she knows how to, go inside. when she came here, she thought she was going to be a two guard and possibly a point guard. And I said, no, you're going to play post. And she looked at me like, are you kidding me? And I was like, well, that's just what we have to do. If you look at our size, we're not big.
No.
But, and so it is kind of funny when I look at the stat sheet now and it says points in the paint. And I'm like, wow, we have like 25, 30 points in the paint for not having a player over 6'1". That really is our press, our tempo, and then, we try to attack it. And I always think, live and die by the three, I don't feel really comfortable with, but, a lot of it has to do too with, Elizabeth Holman, our point guard. She's such a facilitator, and her, she averages almost 8, assists a game, and she's second right now in the country in assist, and then second in assist to turnover ratio. I think that's why we're able to score in the paint so much, is because her ability to just, facilitate and get her teammates in the right position. And then Dennison just stretches everybody out with her body of work over the last 4.5, 5 years now with her 3-point threat. And she's really added, a little bit to her game, being able to attack and shoot it off the bounce just a little bit. So, it's fun. And then we just add depth. Carly Ross is another, I think 2 or 3 year starter. I'm sorry, Carly, I can't remember how many years, but, she's 5'7" post, and she just does all of our dirty work. She averages over 2 charges a game. And, she's really improved her skill. And, she chips in, 6 to 10 points a game for us also.
You got a program that is 7th in the country in scoring margin at nearly 24 points per game. That jumped out at me. You also have a program that's field goal percentage is 11th best in the nation at 45%. You are 7th, I said in scoring margin, you're also 7th in turnover margin at 10.6. Meaning you have 10.6 less turnovers per game on average. You're 18th in forced turnovers at nearly 24 a game of your opponent. You are 21st in turnovers yourself, 15th in scoring defense, 49.4. Hold on. Fouls per game. You don't foul a lot. You're 25th in the nation there. 3rd in assist to turnover ratio. If you want to dive into analytics and you want to dive into stats, those stats there express that you are a good defensive team. You are going to make an offensive team's night hell. And by the way, you're going to take care of the ball too on top of that. You're not going to make the mistakes on top of that. You're going to capitalize on their mistakes. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think so. I know our defense really sets the tone, and what that really does to us is, 2 things. I think it gives us the opportunity. We have more possessions, which then, at the end of the game, we have more opportunities, whatever we do with those opportunities. And then, we do pride ourselves in turnovers, and taking care of the basketball. And really, I am kind of amazed sometimes that we don't turn the ball over more just because of the tempo we play, because as soon as we get it, I'm always on the sideline saying, go, 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 push it. So, but I think it's again, it starts with our point guard and her skill set and her ability. And then everyone else, we really do just pride ourselves in taking care of the ball and trying to challenge players every day, play within your skill set. So if you can only dribble twice, and then look to pass and look to cut and, know what your skill set is. So it's pretty exciting. It's fun to know the turnover ratio. And, honestly, that's when people have asked me about, our record in the conference, I say, it's really exciting, but I'm really excited about how we do it. And, they're a fun team to watch. I always say I'm thankful, to have a front row just to sit there and watch the excitement that, has been generated. And I heard you talk to Calvin's coach before myself, and, he said it's really turning into a huge atmosphere there. And I think that's what we've created also. And, that's really fun to see. And I think a lot of it is our style of play. We just love to get after it on defense, and then that creates everything for us offensively.
Yeah, no, it seems that way, and it's fun to watch your team, and it's fun to watch what that team produces. We mentioned Elizabeth Holman, by the way. She's 2nd in the nation in assists per game. Casey Schipfer, we mentioned her, 25th in the nation in points per game, 29th in total points, 16th in field goals made, by the way. This is a pretty solid team. Nobody over 6 foot, which I think there's a lot of D3s who would kill for a couple of your 6-footers. What was the turning point in the season, though? Because you had a couple of games in the middle against Capital and Rhode Island College where it didn't go your way. Against Capital on the 16th, you lost by 4 at their place. Then 3 days later, you're down in Puerto Rico, and you lose to Rhode Island by 4 in a very low-scoring affair, 48-42. And you had Southern Maine the very next day. Hey, wheels can come off the bus right at that point in time. What was it about that stretch of games and what was going on then?
Yeah, I think early on, the Capital game, we just, I think we were still trying to really find our identity. And, I do recall somewhere around the Capital game and then before we went to Puerto Rico, we were pressing, but we weren't really good at it yet. And that's what I kept saying is, we're putting pressure on, but really, we got to start executing out of our press. And we really weren't doing that yet. So then, that leaves holes. We're giving up easy things. And, credit to Capital. They outplayed us that game. They were physical, and we just I don't think we fought hard enough in that game. And, we always talk about failing forward. So that was one turning point where we we had to look ourselves in the eye and say, look, what are we going to do with this? And where do we need to get better? And then we, improved a little bit. And then when we went to Puerto Rico, I really think it was a couple factors. One, going down there and just being in that atmosphere, it was a great experience for our team and our program. And then that's when the first rankings came out. And I think being ranked and seeing that ranking, I think we a little bit, and I'm being vulnerable here, I'm not sure we knew what to do with it at the time. So when we came in, and Rhode Island is a great program,
yes,
nationally, I'm not sure we were ready for it. And honestly, to have a sophomore that's a starter, that has high expectations of herself and doesn't want to let her teammates down. I think Macy Miller was a little bit, that was the first time she'd been on a stage like that where it was kind of expected. So again, I think we really handled it well as a team. And again, our 5th-year seniors and our small group leaders, including that's Carly Ross, really rallied around. And after that, they sat in the lobby for quite some time that evening after Rhode Island and said, Coach, we're meeting. And I'm like, well, do you need us? And they're like, no, we got it. So they had a player meeting for quite some time. And then I was like, all right, well, let us know when you're ready for us to come over. And we literally showed up. Coach Susan and I showed up for about 5 minutes, and they were like, we got it. I said, okay, we're ready to go tomorrow. So, again, that's a sign of our leadership. And I think a sign of our veterans, being able to take it on. And from there, we went out and we executed, and we responded well against Southern Maine. And then I think from there, our third turning point was the first half of Wittenberg, the second time we played, and we didn't play real well coming out. And, at halftime, I just said, look, you got to believe in what you do. Like, you're here for a reason. Let's believe in what we do. And I think that was the exclamation point that they needed to really say, you know what, we can accomplish this if we just do it together.
Well, it's been impressive. Watched a handful of games here and there, and I mean, I'm no expert, but there's something enjoyable to watch about the team, if that makes any sense. You just can say, oh, look at that. Congratulations. This has obviously been building. It's not an overnight thing. We talked about that last year. But you're in a pretty good spot, and we look forward to seeing where it translates. Obviously, we're looking forward to see you in March as well. Heck, you're in a perfect location to host. I'm just saying. Hope the paperwork is in. Coach, thanks for bearing with us tonight and sticking it out, and most importantly, coming on the show. As always, we give the guests the final word, though. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuned in?
Oh, just, thanks again, everybody, for tuning in and what you guys do there at D3 Hoops, for all you do for, basketball Division III. And I just encourage all the fans to tune in to Division III basketball, because it's an unbelievable product. And, we appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
No, it is a great product, and it's getting better and better, if that's even possible. The women's game, it's getting more diverse, more parity. It's awesome to see, and you guys are certainly an example of that. Thank you again. Give Mike a hard time for me if you don't mind, all right? Keep him in line.
Yep, and I'll give a shout out. Good luck to our men tomorrow as they host the quarterfinals at 7 p.m., so I'll let Mike know.
Yeah, good call. They're going to need it, I'm kidding. Only to rile Mike up. You take care. Thanks again, Coach, for your time. Thanks for staying up past your bedtime. We'll look forward to catching up with you.
Thanks again.
Stacey Lobdell joining us here on the Hoopsville Hotline. Appreciate her taking the time. Again, they're coming Thursdays when they'll be playing coming up next. They're on a roll. They haven't lost since that back-to-back games against Capital and Rhode Island College. They are fun to watch. Definitely encourage you take the time to go check them out at Ohio Wesleyan women's basketball. Quick side note, I'm moving my head slightly. A lot of people talk about the jerseys we have in our studio. That one there, the Bishop's 22, is a Ohio Wesleyan women's basketball. Lauren Hill signed it. It was a fundraiser. We got it. It's her number. Her signature, you can barely see, is right there. Part of the fundraiser for her cancer awareness before she died. That's why it's framed, and it's one of those that we certainly appreciate. To answer the question quickly, the center uniform, that was the very first one we got. Center sent it to us, asked us what our number was. My number was. And then the Greenville one is framed because Coach decided to frame it. That's how I got it. He brought it to me looking like that. If you'd like to get your jersey on the wall here, contact me. I'll send you my mailing address to help get it all put up, as it were. Let's see. Got some unfinished business to do. Scranton women lost in the opener or the last game of the regular season to Elizabethtown. I don't think that surprises too many people. Elizabethtown's a darn good basketball team. To the point that if there was a team Scranton would lose to, I would have picked Elizabethtown. That landmark conference is certainly tough at the
Elizabethtown finished
one game back of Scranton as a result. Scranton's now 24-1. Elizabethtown's 22-3. Scranton 17-1. Elizabethtown 16-2. Catholic 15-3. Susquehanna came on strong to finish 12-6 in conference play. That quad is very difficult. After the game and the win by Elizabethtown over Scranton, Ryan Scott happened to be in attendance and caught up with Veronica Nolt afterward. We had this originally edited. We just found a spot to pick it up, so bear with us if it's not clean, but after the computer crash, nothing is working right. But here's Veronica talking about their win over Scranton on Saturday.
Those important games.
Well, I don't think we're going to lose our focus. I do think that, the reality is because we have played these competitive teams the whole season long, there isn't a lack of like a letdown or anything like that. We have to stay focused on the landmark conference because there is so much parity, throughout the league. And so certainly there's some teams that are a little bit more successful this season, but I don't think there's a letdown. I think there's just a lock-in focus and recognizing what a special team that we have and an opportunity that we have, and just enjoy our time together here.
How have you seen the team grow through the year? I think they're certainly looking better and playing better than they were at the beginning.
I think that's normal. I think, in the beginning, sometimes you get some, you get some dings and some of that kind of stuff when they've kind of not been playing, to this competitive level of practice every day for so long. And I think the biggest part for me is just seeing them really buy into the team aspect. And they've always been that way. It's a little different when your older kids are recognizing, hey, the light's at the end of the tunnel now. We only have this amount of time, and then there's not another opportunity next year. So I think that always kind of sharpens people's focus a little bit.
The lead dropped down to 3 late. There was kind of a feeling of, oh no, in the building. Didn't see that from your team. What do you talked about during those moments when you're putting that final few plays in place to win this thing?
One possession at a time. You just have to stay focused, and those types of games can go either way. We know that, but you can't worry about the outcome. You just have to stay focused on what's my job in the next 30-second possession. What's my job in the next 30-second possession? Just kind of making sure that we're thinking versus having high emotions or low emotions based on what's happening on the court.
This year we've got this NPI system that is, we can look at, and the numbers would say, especially after this win today, you guys don't have to worry about getting into the tournament. Does anybody look at that? Do you look at that? Obviously, that's not going to help you win the conference tournament if you are thinking about not having to win it, right?
Well, again, of course you look at those things. You're always curious and making sure that you're prepared. But I'm not a big dweller on that kind of stuff because I think you can get lost in the what ifs, and sometimes you need to think about those things. Like, it was critical to win today, obviously. Yeah. But I can't control what other teams are doing. I can only control what our team is doing. And the effort that we gave today, I thought was just top shelf. And so that's what we can control. And so you can look at those other things, but
sure.
Our conference is so strong. It would certainly be a joy to go to the tournament again this year. But that's a next week problem.
Okay, so
next week problem.
I'll ask one more next week problem. If you keep winning, you win this conference tournament, you guys very well could be hosting here. What would it mean to have an NCAA tournament game on campus?
Well, I think that's a little getting a little ahead of ourselves. Not because I don't think that we're a competitive team, but certainly just because. Gosh, I've never thought about that because I just don't think like that. Like I just think, okay, let's prepare for the next game. And certainly we've got formidable opponents in our conference, and that we will anticipate seeing this week. And we've all beaten each other now one time, and so it's really anybody's game, right? So as we're moving forward and seeing how this week shakes out, I'm just grateful to have such great kids, and they just really are awesome on the court and in the classroom and socially. They're just amazing people. So I'm really fortunate that way. And we'll see how the games shake out one at a time.
All right, that's Veronica Nolt, the head women's basketball coach at Elizabethtown. They just beat Scranton.
Thanks, Ryan, for thinking of us and getting that sound with Veronica. Great to hear from her on the perspective of getting that win. It's interesting. I've talked to her on a number of occasions, and them beating Scranton in the last game of the regular season so they can't be undefeated to finish the regular season probably isn't a big deal to them. And I don't mean that in the sense that it is a big deal, but I mean they aren't going to celebrate it, especially publicly, like it's huge because they expect to do that. They don't expect to lose a lot of games, especially in the Landmark Conference, and they think they're good enough to beat Scranton, and they clearly are. So I'm not surprised by Veronica being a little bit more neutral about all of that. Interesting question there at the end. Ryan asking about hosting. I don't know if Elizabethtown realizes they may be in a bit of a position to do that. We've gotten word there's already schools that are in position to host who never put their paperwork in, which was due on Friday. I'll say it now. If we get scenarios where games are not hosted where you expect them to have been hosted, the first question should not be, how did the committee screw that up? That's not the question to ask. The first question should be, I wonder if that institution even put in their paperwork. Because a school is not going to get a call from the committee going, hey, by the way, we'd like to have you host, but we noticed you didn't put your paperwork in, so any chance you could do that for us? No, that used to happen years ago. Doesn't happen anymore. If you didn't put your paperwork in, you didn't put your paperwork in, you're not hosting. So when we see brackets in a week's time, and there are institutions not hosting that we would have expected, the first question should be, did they put their paperwork in? And we talked about that with Bartley tonight at WPI. There's been years they couldn't host. There might be valid reasons, by the way. The facility may not be available. A lot of these schools rent out their facilities or have to use their facilities for other purposes, and the rent is money, and if they can make a lot of money with a rental, in WPI's case, I'll say it seriously, of a state robotics championship, then yeah, they're going to do that. Yeah, you're going to have an awkward conversation with your student athletes to say, hey, we decided or we had this opportunity and this is what we did. This is why you're not hosting. But I also hope that conversation doesn't take place on Sunday, March 2nd or Monday, March 3rd this year. I hope that conversation's been going on for a few weeks where the coach or the administrators go to the team, go, hey, just FYI, we are not going to be able to host the NCAA tournament. I know we're in position to do so. We apologize. Our facility has been rented out for this deal. Or they're on spring break and they don't have enough manpower in place to do it. Now, I have heard a number of occasions where schools thought they weren't in a position to do it, didn't put in the paperwork, especially for the second weekend, because they were going to be on spring break, didn't have the manpower, then realized we have a chance to host this. Let's scramble and get this all taken care of. We'll get people in place the week of. Hey, committee, can we host? No. So that's another reason. You may not feel you have the manpower. You may be renting out the facility. You may have to use the facility for other purposes. Be blatantly honest. You may not have a large enough facility, especially for the second weekend. There are a lot of reasons why this doesn't happen. The last one is where you ask the school what happened, because sometimes schools flat out forget to do the paperwork, don't do the paperwork, don't think to do the paperwork, don't know to do the paperwork, whatever it is. I have told the story numerous times. I won't repeat it now, but I have personally experienced when a school does not put their paperwork in to host and it has to go to another institution. And of course, the last one is, the last two are, women have priority opening weekend, men have priority the second weekend. NYU men are going to be on the road opening weekend. NYU, yes, that's what I'm saying that right. NYU women will have to be on the road the second weekend if both win through. Randolph-Macon women is another one off the top of my head. Christopher Newport women look like they've kind of entered the conversation again to host, possibly. There's no guarantees, by the way. Geography will rule the day. If they can't get enough teams at Christopher Newport's going on the road somewhere else. So there are other scenarios. Listen, Whitman's in the top 8. There's no guarantee they're hosting the opening weekend, especially. The committee may not be able to get teams to Whitman. They may have to do other things with their bracket and send Whitman elsewhere. So those are those types of scenarios. And then that's when you ask the committee and we dive in and find out from the committee, okay, what were the decisions behind these choices? Why didn't so-and-so host? Why didn't so-and-so host, etc.? So we will keep you abreast to everything we glean, as it were, on the old social medias, and we'll report. Reminder, Thursday we'll be on the air at 2 o'clock Eastern to talk about a lot of this stuff. Again, noon Eastern on Thursday, I have a gig, and then I'm out of town. Pat Coleman will host our Selection Sunday show on Sunday. Time to be determined. Usually we started around 6 p.m. Eastern. I don't know when Pat's going to start that off. We'll figure that out, but that will be Sunday. I got a interesting, thank you. WIAC first round, Pat Coleman with a quick fire up for me. I'm going to jump to that. What else was there? And then Monday, a week from today, usually we have our
bracket show.
Oh, the game must have just ended because I just went to. Oh no, that's a different game. What the heck? How am I on the wrong game here? Hang on, trying to get to it. Yeah, I somehow ended up on the wrong game. I'll try and find it here. Sorry, I'm doing 6 things. This is what happens sometimes. Come on, where's my game? Here we are. Whitewater Stevens Point. We're going to get to this game. This one is tied up with seconds left to go, is what I'm told. And so we will try and get here, though I am in an ad that is blank, which is not helping. All right, there we are. 9/10 of a second, 2-point game. I am trying to get to this quickly for you. Well, there it is. I think that ends it. We'll see if I can get fast enough here. Oh, why are you not? There we go. We'll call it up. There it is. We'll unmute it. So we Well, we saw it end. Stevens Point knocks off Whitewater, 81-79. Sorry if there was an audio echo there. I was trying to go there quickly as fast, and it didn't work out. But Stevens Point in the first round of the WIAC tournament knocks off Whitewater and moves on to the second round. Thanks to Pat notifying us. We just couldn't get to it fast enough. What was I saying prior to that? Our normal bracket show next Monday will not air because I'll be traveling back from my business trip. So we will air that Tuesday afternoon at 12 o'clock. So to follow up, Thursday, noon Eastern, maybe earlier, but noon Eastern's our goal with a Hoopsville show. And then Sunday, Pat Coleman will be hosting the selection show. Pat Coleman will also be on the NCAA bracket shows on Monday. Our normal bracket reaction show on Monday night will move to Tuesday afternoon at noon. So there you go. Stay with us. You'll follow us all where you can find that information on the socials. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Threads at D3 Hoopsville. You can find us on Facebook and, Blue Sky? Whatever it's called. Just Hoopsville there. You can also find us on YouTube at D3 Hoopsville there as well, et cetera, et cetera. Josiah Butler hit 2 free throws with 9/10 of a second left. Stevens Point defeats Whitewater 81-79 in the 4-5 game in the WIAC first round. Whitewater rallied from 26 points down to tie Stevens Point, but Stevens Point held on to win the game. So there you go. That's what happened. Other games quickly from tonight. Dean over Anna Maria. Marywood over Centenary of New Jersey. Mitchell over Elms. And I believe it's done. Oshkosh and Eau Claire played tonight. I thought I saw that one was finished. It is. Eau Claire beat Oshkosh 66-56. That's men's scores from tonight. All in conference tournaments. Women's scores from tonight. Elms over LaSalle. In a apparently Trinity DC played a game today, even though they're not in a conference. Lost to Virginia Lynchburg 67-34. Emmanuel over Regis 74-44. Let's see. York, New York over SUNY Westbury, Old Westbury 55-77. Marywood and Centenary, New Jersey played tonight as well. Let's see if we can find a quick score on that one before we sign off. Marywood won that one in the 4-5 game of the Atlantic East, 77-73. So the 5 seed moves on from there. Reminder, men's and women's conference tournament trackers are online at d3hoops.com. They're on the front page. They're on the drop-down menus. You can find them everywhere. Go there to find out everything going on. You can also understand a ramification of upsets, if teams win, if teams lose, what their chances are at Pool C's. Of course, the guys at D3 Datacast, Ryan and Zach, are doing a great job. Scott Peterson's doing a great job on the women's side, trying to prognosticate a lot of things from top 16 to top 8 to just Pool C bids in general. Our breaking news at the top of the show. Colby Sawyer, men's basketball coach, is out. Jeff Brown at Middlebury has announced he's retiring from the men's program. And we've reported that Cliff Carroll at Mary Hardin Baylor is leaving, not by his choice from that job. 98-33 in his 5 years at Mary Hardin Baylor. They are going into the conference tournament. He's 2 wins away from 100 there. It'd be kind of appropriate if he got maybe 2 wins and got 100 before on his way out. I'm just saying. We don't know the reasons why Cliff Carroll's leaving. I know other reporters know this story and maybe have more information. We felt it important to report the story for a bunch of different reasons. One, to keep it within Division III. There are others who are going to report it, in my opinion, that I don't think would have done the reporting justice. So we felt it important enough to report. I will leave the dive into the rabbit hole stuff to others who may already have that information. If we are to get it and nobody else has it, at some point down the road, down to explain why Carroll is no longer coach of the Crusaders, we will do so. If not, we will rely on those other reporters to do their job as well. And with that, I think we are about done. I want to thank everybody for hanging in there. Sorry for our computer crash mid-interview with McMurray. We will get Drew Long back on the show at some point to talk to him in more depth. I very much appreciate his patience with us. Want to thank Chris Bartley of WPI, Nick Nachay of Franklin and Marshall, Chenel Harris-Smith of Colby, Drew Long of McMurray, Bill Saul of Calvin, Stacy Lobdell of Ohio Wesleyan. I want to thank all the sports information directors who not only helped out today, but also helped out back on Thursday with our Top 16 show. Not only those we featured in the top 8, but those we contacted. We contacted the top 20 at one point. Really appreciate all their help. With that, we're signing off. We got to get ready for a noon show on Thursday, and we got a lot of work to do also to figure out why we had issues tonight. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the Hoopsville Studios in Baltimore area. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show. Appreciate you taking the time to join us. And make sure to log on to D3Hoops.com for all the information you need on the conference tournaments from here on out. Should be a great week of basketball. In a week's time, we'll know the 128 teams still remaining dancing for 2 national championships, but a lot to be decided between now and then. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. See you on Thursday.